The hell girl, who I created, is now behind me, seeking my life. It all happened because someone wrote my name on the dark web of hell, and I never dreamed that the rules I wrote would be used by others. What's even more unexpected is that the writer is a young man I once saved. It all started with a mysterious notebook I came into possession of. As long as it's written down, the supernatural tale will become reality. But the owners of its blade have all died an untimely death 1 month later. That's because the moment they obtain it, their lifespan is reduced to 30 days. Only by continuously writing rules and punishing the wicked can they extend their life. And all the events related to those punished will be recorded in writing in the notebook. Not long ago, I saved a bespectacled boy who was being bullied, and created the Hell Girl, who punishes the perpetrators. Every night at midnight, if you log into the Hell Correspondence website, and enter the name of the person you resent, the Hell Girl will appear, and drag them to hell. And just as this urban legend was spreading like wildfire online, a female student was called into the disciplinary office. The ones questioning her were from a special department. They played a video for the girl. In the video, the girl was being bullied. But as he plucked the petals from the flower in his hand, the bully's face was instantly burned beyond recognition by fierce flames. The interrogator asked the girl whether she was the one who summoned the Yomi girl. By this time, the girl was sobbing uncontrollably. She confessed to Qingji that she, with the resolve of never returning, entered the school bell's name into Hell Correspondence. The moment she pressed send, the Hell Girl actually appeared before her. She gave her a red spider lily, and told her that if she plucked off a petal, the evil person will be punished, but he will also bear the weight of his sins. His soul will eventually endure eternal torment in hell. It will never cease. As for whether to pluck the petals, that is entirely up to him. Sure enough, Qingji discovered the curse mark within the girl. He then immediately removed his gloves. He prepared to use the hand of pilfer to eliminate it. This surprised his assistant, Qi Xiaoying. While the hand of pilfer could steal any food, each use would also take something from the caster in return. As the girl cried out in pain, a dark power burst forth from within her. The force was so strong it even shattered the office window. I quickly sensed the commotion. From the murmurs of my classmates, I learned that the girl involved was named Gulia. She was one of the people who had summoned the Huang Quan maiden not long ago. I continued to observe their every move. I saw someone personally comforting Gulia, saying they would handle things by claiming self-defense. Having said that, they prepared to leave the school. But just as I turned away, he seemed to sense something was amiss. He looked back in my direction. This action completely caught me off guard. I couldn't help but wonder, could he also possess supernatural abilities? As his footsteps drew closer, my heart leaped into my throat. The notes are, once discovered, the consequences could be unimaginable. In the next second, a shadow appeared before me. However, the person was not Qingji, but rather, fellow Yuming society members, Xiao Pang and Adai. They surrounded me, mumbling that they had some exciting news to share with me. Thinking I was being paranoid, Qingji immediately left school. I breathed a sigh of relief, glad I dodged a bullet. But what I didn't expect was that their so-called breaking news was actually the Netherworld girl. They were about to open the webpage to show me, but the link wouldn't open. I immediately realized someone was blocking. The forum was blocked. Worried that the Hell Communications website might also be blocked, I rushed out of the club in a panic. But after just a few steps, I ran into the bespectacled guy, who had been beaten up again. He reached out his hand to me with a pleading look in his eyes. He hoped I could save him again, but I was too anxious to check the Hell website and didn't have time to help him this time. I simply walked around him and rushed home, leaving him behind to continue enduring the bullying. He silently swore to take revenge on everyone. At the same time, Qingji had returned to the Public Security Bureau. An officer reported to him, the forum spreading the Yomi girl content has been blocked, but the Hell Communication website still cannot be shut down. Qingji thought that it might be protected by some kind of rule-based power. He then ordered everyone to evacuate the building. He would personally attempt to shut down the website at midnight. Shi Xiaoying couldn't help but feel puzzled. How dangerous could blocking a website be? Unexpectedly, Qi Lao told him seriously that the paranormal is an unsolvable existence for humanity. The only way to break the game is to find the rules, and then restrict them. His next words sent a chill down Shi Xiaoying's spine. The slightest carelessness during the investigation could lead to death, and the so-called assistant actually provided them with the wrong information. Having said that, I stood up and pointed to the computer. I indicated that the blocking program had been set up. All that was left was to wait for Qi Xiaoying to press the start button at midnight. I smiled and reassured him that if he was unfortunately killed, the special division would give his family 5 million in compensation. As the midnight bell chimed, Qi Xiaoying reached out a trembling hand. The moment I mustered the courage to press the start button, a massive shockwave erupted from the computer. At the critical moment, Qingji activated the spiritual energy shield. After the storm subsided, Qi Xiaoying touched her head and asked Qingji if it was over. Qingji leaned on his chin and looked at the computer. The monitor was emitting thick smoke with a sizzling sound. The next moment, a terrifying human face appeared on the screen. In an instant, Ji Xiaoying screamed in fright. Jing Ji didn't expect that not only had the website failed to shut down, but it also received a strange warning. She couldn't help but speculate that this might be a monster that had already gained intelligence. She immediately called Hong Ying, a fellow special investigator, to seek cooperation. To collaborate. At this moment, back home, after confirming that the Hell Communications website was safe, I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. According to the notes, I learned that the special division tried to shut down the website. It seems they haven't found a way to restrain the Hell Girl with their current capabilities. Just then, Dumbass suddenly called me. He told me someone was revealing the Hell Girl's killing rules in a live stream. I immediately turned on my computer. The live stream's popularity had already skyrocketed to #1. The man threatened to summon the Yomi girl at midnight tonight, but the netizens didn't believe him. They left comments, saying many had input their names on the Hell Communication app, but the Yomi girl never appeared. The man laughed wildly, mocking the netizens' stupidity. He told everyone that only when the hatred in one's heart is strong enough, and when one is truly desperate, can the Yomi girl be summoned. I thought to myself, he does have a point. In order to prevent the Yomi girl from being exploited, I did set some rules and conditions. I couldn't help but become curious if the man could really summon the Yomi girl. At this moment, I was completely unaware that Aoi and Akazakura had already been waiting downstairs at the man's building. They were prepared to cut off the live stream's internet connection at any time. Their plan was to arrest the Yomi girl as soon as she was summoned. With midnight approaching, the heat in the live stream room reached its peak. Everyone was eagerly anticipating the host's next move. The moment the hellish communication website was opened, the netizens went wild. The man was sweating profusely, his hands trembling uncontrollably from nerves. He roared loudly, declaring that the moment of the miracle had come. Then, he mustered up the courage to press the send button. But suddenly the live stream cut out. Totally confused, I opened my notes to check what happened next. But as I was looking through them, I suddenly felt a chill down my spine. I spun around, and saw the figure of the underworld girl appear behind me. She muttered, "Resentment has arrived. Betray me, Huang Quan." I widened my eyes in disbelief. Someone actually wrote my name on the Hell Correspondence website. I asked him how. "Are you planning to drag me to hell?" But the Hell Girl told me, "His power was bestowed by me. Therefore, you are outside the rules." Although someone wrote my name on the Hell's communication board, whether to annul the contract or send the provocateur to hell will be up to me to decide. But when he told me the writer was Qin Shaoshan, I was completely confused and couldn't remember who he was. I thought to myself that if I let him off this time, once he realizes I wasn't dragged into hell, I would definitely be exposed to the special department. He immediately ordered the Hell Maiden to send him to hell. But before that, I need to see him first. Soon, Qin Shaoshan was brought to hell. When he saw the Hell Maiden standing before him, he was instantly scared and stepped back. I never expected that Qin Shaoshan was the glasses-wearing guy I had once saved. He questioned himself, why, even though he had plucked the petals, was he dragged into hell instead of Yuan Zhen's? I ignored him, and instead asked him why he wrote Yuan Zhen's name. Seeing him hesitate to tell me the reason, the underworld maiden choked his neck, and told him to answer me truthfully. There was no way out, so Qin Shaoshan had no choice but to refuse to confess everything. It turns out he firmly believed that when he was bullied for the second time, if I could have helped, the thugs would never have bullied him again. So, he vented all his anger on me. He even teamed up with the streamer to write my name on Hell Communications. Hearing this, I was immediately furious. I told him that the Hell Maiden was meant to be a weapon for victims to fight back. But you not only failed to direct your pain toward the true source. Instead, you vented it on those who once helped you. The bully who harmed you will face their karmic retribution, and you too will not escape responsibility. With that, you threw his soul into the river of the underworld. Meanwhile, Qingji and Hongying also broke into the broadcaster's home. The only clue left at the scene was a cluster of bellflowers from Qin Shaoshan. Hongying then prepared to use spiritual power to pull off a petal. The moment I touched it, my hand was scorched by nightfire. Qingji reckoned that perhaps only the one who wrote it could peel open the petals. Hongying retorted sarcastically, "Why don't you use your thieving hand to steal it?" But Qinzi told her he had tried to use that hand to steal the student's curse. However, Spectacles warned me that I would surely die if I forced the theft. I then signaled to Hongying that we would proceed with that plan later. Not long after, a man was brought into the interrogation room. He just started cursing at Hongying. This murderer personally attacked him. "What exactly did you do to make an ordinary person hate you this much?" Hongying coldly replied, "Maybe it's because I killed his daughter." That was when he had just joined the Special Affairs Division. He discovered it by accident. A girl possessed by something sinister, but her original body had long since died, so I ended her life myself. The man cursed even more fiercely. "You're full of crap, you're just an executioner." Hongying walked up to the man. "Now I'll give you a chance for revenge. Just enter my name up there." I will go to hell as you wish. After saying that, he gestured for everyone else to leave. Outside the interrogation room, Qi Xiaoqing asked Qingji why Lord Hongying wanted everyone to leave. Qingji told her that in the special section, there is an item called the death file. As long as you provide a photo and fill in the name and date of birth, it can cause a person to die instantly. Therefore, everyone in the special section only has code names. Except for the section chief, no one else is allowed to know the real name. At that moment, a strange red light suddenly seeped through the crack in the door. Noticing the situation, Qingji immediately opened his right eye to peek. He saw petals of a blood lotus being torn off. The next second, the Yellow Springs girl appeared right before him, and the moment she looked at his face, the Yellow Springs girl glared viciously at Qingji. Instantly shocked, Qingji weakly leaned his hand against the door. The strong Qi Xiaoying hurriedly asked him what had happened, but at that moment, Qingji saw another ghost standing behind Qi Xiaoying. The ghost made a promotion gesture towards him. This terrifying intimidation made Qingji feel despair. He took a long time to snap out of it. He told everyone that it was a strange warning. Then he gestured that they could go in to check on Hongying's condition. However, as soon as they entered, they saw him lying on the ground, covered in blood. At this moment, Hongying's soul had already arrived in hell, and the girl from the underworld was staring directly at her. She only lightly touched her forehead. Hongying then fell into the river of Hades. In an instant, countless black miasma wrapped around her, demanding to know why she trespassed into hell. Do you know your crime? Under my intimidation. He appeared incredibly small. Before he could react, his soul returned to that small boat. I stood on the shore, watching him from afar. The moment our eyes met, a chill ran down his spine. It was as if his courage, bravery, and willpower were all eroded in that instant. As the small boat drifted to the end of the river, it plunged straight down the waterfall. He also felt the fear of death. When he opened his eyes again, Hongying had already returned to the interrogation room. Exhausted, he told Qingji, there is a waterfall in the river leading to hell. Beyond the waterfall lies the true hell. At that moment, he was like a soulless, wandering ghost. If it hadn't been for using the shadow trick just as his consciousness was about to fade, let his shadow die in his place. I'm afraid he'll never come back. But what terrified him the most was that the Huangquan girl seemed to be truly conscious, and kept warning him. And there was something in hell he couldn't see clearly. He didn't know what it was. I'm afraid it's something even more terrifying. Hearing this, Qingji couldn't help but have a bad feeling. He immediately decided to report to his superiors. At this time, I also learned through my notes that the senior officials of the special department and the think tank had already identified the Yellow Springs girl as the first anomaly with intelligence. It was classified as a disaster-level entity. But what confused me was, according to what the Yellow Springs girl said, Hongying's soul is still in hell. But according to the notes, she didn't die. Then how did she escape from hell? I can't help but wonder if she possesses some heteromorphic ability to split her soul, or maybe has some kind of substitute puppet or tool. Meanwhile, in the Special Division 2 think tank meeting, everyone is discussing whether to take action against the underworld girl. They argued endlessly about initiating God's devouring plan. Although having God devour the underworld maiden would strengthen his power again, sentient anomalies were still extremely rare and controllable. Therefore, Kong Ping was the first to cast a vote in favor. But Tianyi strongly opposed this. He believed that humanity could no longer rely on God to resolve the anomaly problem. To humanity, God was an unsolvable anomaly. If he is allowed to grow stronger, the consequences will be unimaginable one day. He even expressed his willingness to communicate with the Netherworld Maiden. As soon as he said this, all eyes were on him. He then realized it was himself. Tang Tua stood up and apologized to everyone. Mr. Xiang warned him, everyone's life is interconnected. They will never allow a thinking, strange existence. Unless even the gods can't resolve it in the end, they will not support his ideas. However, Tianai knew well that the devouring plan would not fail. This is because everyone who had come into contact with him or the strange phenomena had died without exception. The next day, returning to school, the scene before me left me dumbfounded. The area outside the club was crowded with students. Everyone was drawn to the legend of the Hell Girl. They all wanted to join the Netherworld Club. We struggled for a long time, before finally escaping to a quiet spot. At this point, a curly-haired girl walked over. She introduced herself as a new member of the club, and asked whether her application to join had been approved. At that moment, Dai suddenly remembered her. She was the girl who, along with her best friend, wanted to join the club. The two nerds immediately surrounded her. Just as they were exchanging contact information, the girl's phone chimed with a text message, and the key-shaped notebook pendant on my chest lit up as if in response. I tentatively asked her if she was chatting with a friend. Unexpectedly, she told me, this is a recently popular group chat game. Everyone in the group will randomly receive a number. Then, they take turns sharing their stories. It helps to relieve stress, which is why so many people are playing it. We call it your turn. Until you get home. I was still thinking about that game. I guessed it might be because my spiritual power had reached the second level. and now I could sense those flying things. But the notebook warned me not to be curious about any special existence. However, the next second, Xin Hui sent a message in the group chat. She suggested that everyone play that group chat game together. I couldn't help but sigh. It seems like there's no way to escape, no matter how hard I try. The next day, we arrived at an abandoned factory. I was completely speechless. This crappy place barely even had a signal. And Xinhui also brought along his so-called best friend. When Dai and Xiao Pang found out his best friend was a guy, they were instantly devastated. I tentatively asked Xinhui, "Isn't that an online group chat game? Why bring everyone here?" Because I know for sure he has already encountered strange people. No one can be certain if he still is one right now. But Xinhui told me that this is the advanced version of the game. He speculated that the members of the underworld society would like it. So he took the liberty to bring everyone here. I warned Dai and Xiao Pang that this game was far from simple. I told them it was best not to play it, just in case. But, overcome with excitement, they insisted on joining Xinhui for a round. Unable to dissuade them, I had to join in as well. After all, if I didn't participate, I was afraid everyone present would. With that, we walked into the factory. A deathly aura suddenly surged towards them. Xinhui's face lit up with excitement. She was ready to start introducing the game mechanics. A familiar female voice was heard. The two of them excitedly turned around. Then, they stared in shock at the man and woman in front of them. "You're calling her your best friend? Do you have some misunderstanding about your best friend?" They blushed crimson. They glanced at each other. Stammering, they said they were good friends. Very, very good friends. Two single dogs were left in tears. It was over before it even began. Yuan Jinxi frowned. She asked, "Is it your turn? It's an online game. Why do we have to come here? I'm even more suspicious. This girl has obviously played before. Is she even human now?" His buddy pulled him aside. "These two clearly have a thing for each other. Let's give them a nudge. Think of it as a good deed." I felt a little disappointed. It's just a game, but they're acting like it's life or death. My best friend immediately smoothed things over, saying she would play too. Those two dummies immediately got excited. Yuan Jin sighed. "Now I can't not go. If I back out, the few people present may all end up in the newspaper tomorrow. It's your turn now. If there are fewer than 4 people, just stand facing the corners of the room in the dark, sealed space. Starting with person number 1, tell a supernatural story. If there are more than 4 people, each person must occupy a separate floor. Person number 1 goes upstairs to find person number 2 and tells the story. And so on." Yuan Jinsher looked at the necklace in her hand. "These are the rules of the game. Not strange rules. So, what are his rules?" The fat guy on the first floor found the guy with glasses on the second floor by the light of the screen. The guy with glasses was scared stiff. He soon finished telling his story. Then the guy with glasses went up to the 3rd floor alone. Yuan Zhen's was on the 5th floor. He's been sitting there for a long time. His phone's even died. Why are those guys down there taking so long? Suddenly, the sound of footsteps, da-da-da, came from the stairs. Of the 4 people, only Xinghui walks with that sound. So I said, "Can you turn on your flashlight?" He turned on his flashlight without hesitation, and said, "I'm number 4. Then I got closer. And as I walked, I told them, my story goes like this. 4 boys who dug up a coffin were walking with a girl. It started pouring down rain, and the boys had to pick up the pace. But the girl wasn't in a hurry. The strange thing was, in the end, the boys became drenched. The girl, however, stayed completely dry. Then she leaned in and whispered, 'Do you know why?' Yuan Zhenxi snorted coldly. The girl was in no hurry. He, of course, was in no hurry, because the person lying in the coffin was him. Xinhui immediately clapped in admiration. "As expected of you, Yuan Zhens. Now you need to go back to the 1st floor, and tell your ghost story, because it's your turn." But he didn't notice the bloody footprint on the stairs leading down. According to the rules of the game, Yuan Zhens needs to go down to the 1st floor to find Fatty. But as he walked, he realized the girl hadn't followed him. He asked, "Is this disloyal?" He shook his head. He said, "I'll go back to the 4th floor, and wait for the next person to come up. After all, we can't break the rules." But when he reached the 1st floor, he didn't see the fat man. Instead, he saw 4 people outside the building. Wait, there are 4 people. Wasn't she supposed to be on the 4th floor? The girl trembled uncontrollably. It's so dark inside, it's terrifying. The guy best friend from the 3rd floor went up to the 4th floor. After finding her, the two of them shouted for Yuan Zhenxi on the 5th floor from the staircase. But after calling for a long time, no one responded. This is definitely not normal. So, frightened, the two of them went downstairs. They found the other 2 downstairs. They all went outside together. Yuan Zhen's was drenched in cold sweat. That is to say, he didn't go to the 5th floor at all. Crows cawed incessantly on the telephone pole. A deathly silence fell. Yuan Zhensher chuckled. "Why are you so tense?" "I'm just kidding. With your guts, you dare to play horror games." Everyone immediately started complaining. But Yuan Zhensher kept staring at Xinghui the whole time. Want to stay up all night gaming together tonight? You know, after the main characters in these shows tempt fate, something bad always happens if they split up. Xinghui quickly hugged her best friend's arm and said, no need. Then she looked at her male best friend and asked, can you take me home? My cat can do a backflip. The boy blushed. What's this about a backflip? If there's tap water, I'll go. Then the two of them left. Yuan Zhenzi's expression was serious, because he saw Xinghuan on the 5th floor. So who was that guy on the 5th floor? Suddenly, he felt like he was being watched. He turned around and shouted, I'm going back to check. His two buddies immediately chased after him, shouting, Zhenzi, what are you doing? Didn't we agree to play together? Fatty chimed in, yeah, dude, and it's only ever been the three of us here. Yuan Zhenshi broke out in a cold sweat. Only three. Then who is Xinhui's best friend in the river? The pendant on his chest began to flash red. Maybe they aren't human. And Yuan Zhenshi was already running farther and farther away. The two shouted, that's a dangerous building. Shinji, don't go. Meanwhile, the special division carefully examined the photo. They had found the person who took it. Hong Ying took the photo, and asked what they planned to do about the Huang Quan maiden. Qingji said that Yuming AI was now under their control, and they were planning to use the gods, but it would be better if they could restrain her. After all, a god shouldn't easily become stronger. And now, they're using various methods to diminish the Netherworld maiden. Time can fade everything. As long as no one knows, it's equivalent to erasure. Hong Ying didn't understand. As long as someone dies, someone will know of her existence. Filial piety. Then we'll activate the gossip mill. As long as those onlookers have enough to keep them entertained, who will care if the world has one more or one less person? Then he shook his handcuffs. Time to make an arrest. Soon, the two arrived at a residence. The man was tied up tight. He personally took out the photo. Tell me, when did you take this photo? Tian Ziyuan. The man worked at the theater. His phone was always in his hand. One day, while they were deep in conversation, he suddenly heard a rustling sound from the cupboard. He opened it and it immediately fell to the ground. He saw a monster inside. A monster with uneven eyes. At the same time, Yuan Zhenzi, who entered the dangerous building, immediately took out the writing and tried to summon it. But there was no response at all. The sound of footsteps, da-da-da, rang out again behind him. It's getting closer. He suddenly turned around. But there was nothing. He continued trying to summon it. The sound behind him grew louder. I want to die. I want to die. I want to die. His head suddenly throbbed with pain. Memories in his mind shattered instantly. After a headache, my mind cleared. How did I end up here? Outside the dangerous building, my close friends reached out their hands, then slowly withdrew them. Where is this? Who is Yuan Zhenshi? Yuan Zhenshi instantly felt a pair of terrifying eyes staring at him from inside the building. He quickly ran back to the dangerous building. The two people behind reached out to stop him from going. But the next second, they lowered their hands. Why are we here? Who are we calling? Meanwhile, Yuan Zhenshi inside kept shouting. Where are the couple? Meanwhile, the rain was pouring down. A woman was home alone. There was a knock at the door in the middle of the night. She opened it, extremely annoyed. Qing Ji stood at the door with a cameraman. Xiao Mei, right? Qing Ji, special branch. He then walked in without waiting for an invitation. Xiao Mei stammered, I haven't seen. Qing Ji interrupted her, we don't care about that. This is for your son. The woman laughed, he doesn't even have ears. Isn't there some mistake? But a second later, he froze. The chubby baby in the photo looked so familiar. Seeing that he couldn't hide it any longer, he changed his story and said he's already dead. 2.5 months ago. Qingji's expression was cold and stern. He said each word clearly, you killed him. He immediately burst into tears. How could that be? He used to scare me in the closet. So I changed my workplace. But I came back to find he had starved to death. Qingji interrupted again. Where's the body? Several large men couldn't kill it. Even Hong Ying, who's always cheerful, couldn't bring herself to speak for a long time. A small hand in the pit has drawn serious attention. And he was only 5 years old. Hong Ying struggled. Could it be that his mother's repentance is sincere? Is it really genuine? He sneers coldly. Heh, repentance. The child in the photo is covered in scars. He was deliberately starved to death. When I showed him the photo just now, I also casually showed him the photo of the eyeball. And this is how it was found. Hong Ying sighed. Such a child has turned into a strange girl, and only the parents are punished. Maybe more awareness should be raised. After all, they don't deserve to be parents. Biological parents are just ordinary people. Though detestable, the necessary restrictions must still be enforced. The main body has been found. Restriction complete. Yuan Zhenzi ascends the dangerous building. He keeps muttering, I want to die. The necklace in his hand suddenly glows red. His eyes instantly regain their brightness. He abruptly turns around. He punches the dark figure behind him. Then he ran downstairs. He also called out to Xiao AI. Xiao Yi still showed no response. Ha ha ha. He was pinned in place. unable to move. The surroundings were filled with rustling sounds. The handprints behind him kept increasing. The phone lights up. Where are you going? Number 5, he grits his teeth. He speaks with difficulty. Who is it? 2 red eyes are staring at him from behind. Who am I? I am number 4. It's Xinghui. The next second, a girl suddenly appeared before him. Sure. It's time we regrouped. He was jolted awake. The scene before him shifted. Countless coffins appeared. 3 of them were open. Their closed eyes opened simultaneously, stood up, and spun 180 degrees. We've been waiting for you. Yuan Zhen's looked at the 3 people in front of him. Fatty, glasses. Wake up. We have to get out of here. Then he froze again. The pupils lose focus. Who are they? Do I know them? It feels like I've always been alone. 3 people holding hands. Surrounding him in the middle. Number 5 is not alone. As for us, they're good friends. Now it's your turn. He slowly lowered his head. The necklace in his hand fell. He murmured, okay. Then he lay down in the coffin. The lid slowly closed. Yuan Zhenzi was dead. Outside the dangerous building, a girl is standing there. Strange, why hasn't she come out yet? She bit her nails, conflicted for a long time. She took out a coin, tossed it into the air. As it fell, Yuan Zhenzi instantly opened her eyes. He suddenly realized he was back home. The experience of death left him completely disoriented. He recovered after a bout of nausea. He looked at himself in the mirror. He remembered going to the building alone, and then killing himself. The voice in the building called him number 5. That meant there were at least 5 people, but he just couldn't remember who the other 4 were. The whole process seemed to have caused various issues with the little eyes and little love he created. They couldn't appear, and resurrection was even more confusing. So he summoned the notebook. He saw that what was supposed to be a 96-day lifespan had turned into 95. And I just died today. As expected, new writing appeared in the notebook. The resurrection function, life from death, has been successfully activated. Each death directly consumes 1 day of my lifespan. As long as I have enough legend points, I can live forever. The next day after school, I went to the ghost club as usual. In my memory, the ghost society only had him. He rubbed his forehead. Whether it's the decorations or the objects, none of it is his style. Besides, a club needs at least 3 people. While he was thinking, the wardrobe behind him opened. Hello, upperclassman. Yuan Zhenzi frowned. He clearly sensed a faint spiritual power within the girl. The girl gulped. His name is Qian Yubai. He wanted to join the ghost society, but with his hands in his pockets, he looked at the nearly disbanded, cold club. Was there still a point in joining? Qian Yubai took out his notebook, stammering. 5 means 5 people. He saw with his own eyes Yuan Zhen's and 4 others enter the building together. He has the habit of taking notes. Yuan Zhen's pupils dilated sharply. April 18, 2020. He waited the whole night. The 5 went in and never came out. His intuition told him it was terrifying inside, but the prophecy clearly said the ghost club is the safest place in the world. So he took out a coin, and predicted again. He followed the guidance of fate and arrived at the ghost club. In Genji's eyes, 5 people slowly appeared. He remembered the chubby guy with glasses, and Shinkai with his male best friend. They're already dead. It looks like they've been dismembered. I was about to look further ahead, but was immediately pulled back by Qian Yubai. My face turned red, and things got awkward. I have to pay more to keep Yuan Zhenzi in front of Qian Yubai. Then I handed over the application form. We just need 1 more person to stay. The task of recruiting new club members has been given to you. He quickly bowed at a 90-degree angle. Then, humming a tune, he skipped away. Yuan Zhenzi then took out the necklace. Qian Yubai's spiritual power is in the awakening stage. He poses no threat for now. Now it's time to meet that apparition impersonating number 4. Qian Yubai, who had walked away, took off his glasses. The prophecy told him that this world is dangerous, and he must join the Phantom Society. Now, only Yuan Zhenzi remains in the Phantom Society. If he meets her criteria, she must get him at all costs, become his girlfriend, even his wife. After parting with Qian and Bai, Yuan Zhenshi furrowed his brow. Before his death, he called out to Xiao Ai and Xiao Yi countless times, but received no response whatsoever. If it hadn't been for live to die activation, the consequences would have been unimaginable. So he took out the pen, and sharply pointed it at the spiritual energy. Strength is the true path to dominance. Then, the sound of a breaking seal echoed from within. At the same time, the breakthrough to the 3rd level of spiritual power occurred. He sensed the presence of his soul. He extended one hand. He could move objects within 10 meters with his mind. His 5 senses were more than doubled in strength. Although the range was limited to 10 meters, but even the sound of a fly rubbing its legs can be heard clearly. New writing appears in the notebook. Unlocking new abilities allows you to use the strange powers you've created. The cost is 100 points per second. Legend points can also be used, with an unknown cost, forcing its use. What if you write a legend that can resurrect the dead? Could it be that it can infinitely nested? Let's do it then. The next moment, the notebook showed insufficient legendary points. It was still too much of a stretch. He stroked his chin. According to the order of disappearance he remembered from yesterday, the order of deaths. First were Xinghui and his male best friend, then it's myself, and finally, the two close friends. Each bizarre event has its own rules for murder. He is number 5, but he dies third. The order of death doesn't follow the numbers. It was clearly an online game, yet the new player arranged for them to meet in an abandoned building. That is his territory. Without a doubt, this urban legend just requires participation online, and the strange one is going to great lengths to get them to play in the building. Could it be that he sensed that he's a spiritualist? When I got home at night, Xiao Yan rushed over. She kept acting spoiled, calling out, "Mom." She took out her phone. The group chat from last night has indeed been dissolved. But the strange thing is, I never expected there would be a freak in the game who can respawn endlessly. The little-eyed guy next to me snatched the phone away. He kept smashing it. Ever since I took out my phone, my mom's been ignoring me. Damn it. Yuanjun thought for a moment. Isn't this just the perfect game partner? Xiao AI has been summoned as well. He directly brings the two of them to a place. But when they arrive at the small grove, they find the entire place is completely empty. He breaks into a cold sweat. Lin Li, at level 3, had his memories altered, and didn't even notice. If there was no great demon from the start, the strange power here is beyond imagination. Yuming sniffed the air. He slowly spoke. There's the scent of my kind here. Then he took Yuanjun's hand. This place isn't safe. We should go home. The little eye on my shoulder nodded. It made a couple of easy sounds. Back home, Yuanjun's and the other two started playing that strange game. Number 4 star said before that the game requires at least 3 people. Xiao AI and Xiao Yan should count as people, right? Out of caution, Xiao AI created the group chat and became number 1. Number 2, Xiao Yan, is talking like crazy. And he's number 3. Not saying a word, just waiting for them to come. It's been 5 hours. Not a sound has been made. Yuan Zhenxi is resting his chin. Looks like the seduction failed. Then, he looked at Yuming AI. The rumors haven't increased at all these past few days. Is something wrong? Yuming AI looked at his phone. He hadn't received any commissions these past few days, and he had a vague feeling that his time might be running out. A strange red glow was emanating from the door. Their eyes were glued to the door. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. As if growing impatient, the knocking abruptly stopped. Then the doorknob turned on its own. The gap widened. An eerie sound echoed. Your turn, number 1. Yoming's eyes were cold. He slowly stood up. His hair stirred, though no wind blew. It beckoned me. In an instant, the entire room split in two auras, equally matched. My eyeballs screamed. The blood vessels within them suddenly multiplied. In an instant, the aura grew several times stronger. With his back turned to Yuan Zhen's, blood began to flow from the corner of his eye. A crisp sound rang out. The soul spirit drifted out. Only then did things start to improve. He spoke, "My lord, he is not as strong as I am. But I am within his rules of killing. The gap has been closed. As long as I know his name, I can kill him." Yuan Zhen's eyes are sharp. Unfortunately, he doesn't know the name. Suddenly, eyes in the darkness shift. They look at Xiao Yan. It's your turn, number 2. His big eyes narrowed slightly. What does this mean? Do you think I'm easy to bully? Uncle can tolerate it, but Aunt can't. He immediately leaps forward. Both hands stretch out endlessly. He grabs the black thread and pulls hard. A strange, crazed attack. Hair flying wildly. Slapping my face repeatedly. Tears streaming from the pain. Revealing my true form makes me vulnerable. I am the ancestor. In the next instant, countless small hands covered the entire space. Tearing frantically. Obliterating the central eye. The sawmouth swallowed it all in one bite. Yuan Jinsher was stunned. If you can't win, just eat. A chaotic punch kills the master. After devouring it, the small eye gradually shrank. Its small face turned red. It let out a big burp. It appeared on the notebook itself. Successfully captured the wild anomaly. Now it's your turn. The legend points and good evil points are shifting. The statistics notebook keeps flipping pages. It stops only on the 18th page. And there's the fat guy. Xia Bingbing is also among them. The life stories of those who were killed appear one by one. In the end, they earned 180,000 legend points. Good and evil, 17,000 points. Then the door was knocked again. A voice came from outside. Hello, is anyone there? Yuan Jinsher slowly walked in. It's 2 a.m. now. The lurking danger. Could there be something even more sinister? On the other side, the special department personally brought the abandoned baby's file to the Public Security Bureau. Cause of death determined. Case closed. I turned to leave. Just before I reached the door, the man called out to me. He was clutching his forehead, clearly in pain. Could I ask you something? Xingji turned around. The man thought for a long time. He hesitantly asked, do I have children? Xingji squinted his eyes slightly. Does Officer Xia have children? What do you mean by asking me that? Strictly speaking, we aren't even colleagues. He felt a pain for a moment. He stood up and said, haltingly, every day, he felt something was wrong at home. He and his wife clearly didn't have children, but there was a boy's room in the house. At first, he thought it was a room prepared for their future child, but everything in the room proved that someone must have lived there. At least 16 or 17 years old. He likes snacks. He's a little chubby, but I can't remember his face. He should be my child, right? And that child turned out to be my best friend, Xia Bingbing, who personally poisoned the dead rabbit glasses. A father's love is truly great. Even if his memory has been tampered with, she still hasn't forgotten all the rooms. Li Yuan's hens walked toward the door. She asked cautiously, who are you? Then she looked through the peephole. She saw a scruffy man standing at the door. He said he was the new neighbor. His name was Xiaosong, and he had just heard a loud noise. So he came to check it out. An entirely normal conversation. Seems there's no problem. So, they mentioned earlier that a cockroach was fighting a little Xiaochang cockroach. Xiaosong didn't suspect anything. Scratched his head. Then he handed the bag he was holding over. These are local specialties. Please accept and try them. His smile was extremely sincere. I thought they were just looking for trouble. I didn't expect them to be not only easygoing, but also to give a gift, which made me feel kind of embarrassed. Although I didn't really want to say it. After the neighbor Xiaosong left, he casually placed the bag aside, then yawned and walked toward the bedroom. He casually told the two of them, you can eat. The two of them looked at each other with disdain. Who would want to eat this? In their view, this bag of fresh fruit was giving off a foul, rotting stench. He didn't notice at all. As usual, Yuan Jinshi walked out in the morning. Suddenly, his phone received a message. Xian Yubai warned that there was danger at the Xuanhu apartment. It's the complex he lives in. The whole complex has 4 buildings. Each one is 25 stories high. There's no way to start looking. I was walking when someone suddenly stopped me. Yan Jinxi, right? Qi Xiaoying, public security. His pupils constricted. The 2 people beside us should be the blue mole and red tassel mentioned in the notes. So I forced myself to stay calm. I asked, what's the matter? Hong Ying spoke up directly, your friend Xia Bingbing has disappeared. I replied, say it, how did he die? He shifted his foot slightly. He said, go to my place. Before I could finish, they stopped me. Then I personally said it wasn't necessary. This place is fine, and no one dares to eavesdrop around here. The wind rustled. At this moment, the bustling campus seemed particularly quiet. Yuan Zhen's turned around, and said coldly, go to my place. Otherwise, you won't get anything useful out of them. Also, ask for a leave of absence for me. Then, with pockets full, I walked towards the school gate. Red Shirt instantly flew into a rage, and was about to lash out, but was stopped by his assistant. I personally intervened, and continued walking forward. Then I looked at Yuan Zhenshi up ahead. This guy is not simple. Lingling is a student, but she wasn't intimidated. She quickly calmed down, and took control of the situation. Along the way, she kept observing him. He's already at the 3rd level of spiritual power. A true genius. The elevator arrived just then. He gestured for them to exit. Please excuse my poor hospitality. My home is on the 3rd floor, in the living room. Hara Shinji is working backward. Now, tell me, what do you want with me? The 3 special class agents froze. Not many people in this world know the organization's name, and just now at school, they clearly said public security. Hara Shinji's solemn expression instantly changed. He laughed, a brain is a good thing to have. Hong Yingqi, as I suspected, instantly crushed the cup in his hand. Hara Shinji continued, there are countless strange things in this world. There must be a special organization among humans capable of eliminating abnormalities. Another cup. 1,000 yuan for scanning the code. Or cash. Hong Ying, who was holding back her temper, suddenly snapped. 1,000 yuan, robbing money. I'm definitely going to beat you today. Qin Ji coughed lightly. You'll still get compensated. But I need to correct something. We can't eliminate the anomaly. We can only contain you. Even though you're a level 3 Esper. When facing the anomaly, you still need to be cautious. Otherwise, you could die at any moment. So now tell me, did you and Xia Bingbing see an eyeball? His eyes slightly brightened. It wasn't an eyeball. It was a game called Your Turn. And I found the pattern. I survived. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. This person really does have enormous potential. A meticulous mind. Though he's feigning composure. He's still green in front of a seasoned veteran like me. Then I waved my hand. So, what do you want to know now? Yuan Jinxi asked about spiritual power directly. What abilities will I gain after reaching the 3rd stage of spiritual power? Each time he levels up, he finds that his senses are enhanced. He has even touched his soul. He lightly adjusted his glasses. I'm afraid this will disappoint you. After reaching the 3rd level, there will be no new abilities with each subsequent upgrade. I can only expand the range of my spiritual pressure's influence. The stronger my spiritual power, the wider the range of influence. They both picked up their cups. Yuan Zhen's asked, if that's the case, Is there still a need to improve our spiritual power? On the contrary, we must improve our spiritual power. But this is the second question. Now answer me. How did you survive? This question. Yuan Jinshi had anticipated it. She calmly said, this is my ability. Substitute death. The three of them slightly narrowed their eyes. Among the three of them, Hong Ying has the rare ability of substitution. She personally got up to answer Yuan Jin's previous question. After reaching the third level of spiritual power, what improves is the soul. When dealing with anomalies, humans need to rely on items similar to anomalies to achieve different effects. But using them comes at a cost, draining the soul. The higher the quality of the soul, the more times it can be used. How long you can live depends on how strong your soul is. As soon as the words were spoken, he was already sitting next to Yuan Jin Temple. Such a close distance. His heart was pounding wildly. Only after sitting far away did I swallow it. A sense of joy filled my heart. Under this pressure, I ultimately had the upper hand. Being so generous, what could possibly be the problem? Despite this, Yuan Jinsher took another sip of water. Speaking of which, Xiao Ai and Xiao Yan's restrictions should be related to them. Xiao Yan is temporarily safe. As for Xiao Ai mentioned before that she seemed to be disappearing soon. It should be because they're about to take action. Then she put down the cup. Since we can't kill the anomalies, how should we restrain them? And if this goes on for too long, there will only be more and more anomalies. Wouldn't humanity be doomed? Big Mouth Hong Ying jumped up and said with a laugh, listen up. Humans can't kill anomalies, but we have anomalies that can kill anomalies. I see. By now, he had gotten the answers he sought. He pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket. Then I will answer your questions. The name of the game is Your Turn. As for the rules of killing. Suddenly, the door was knocked. He got up to open the door. It was the same neighbor who knocked last night. He scratched his head. He said he came to borrow scissors. He couldn't find his own. Yuan Jinsi was speechless. There's a convenience store downstairs. If they're gone, just buy new ones. I only met this guy last night for the first time. Wait, could he be? Did Bai Qianyu foresee some danger in my apartment complex? He's not normal. But there are 3 espers in the room now. So I calmed myself down. What's there to be afraid of? Scissors? Wait a minute, I'll get them for you. Qing Ji, who was sitting on the sofa inside, looked back. But his expression didn't change at all. Yuan Zhen also looked over. None of the 3 reacted. Then I walked towards the door again with the scissors. At this moment, my neighbor Xiaosong's shadow stretched out endlessly. Here, these are the scissors you wanted. My heart was in my throat. Xiaosong in front of me is either an ordinary person, or he's stronger than all of us here. Yan Jinsi wrote the Your Turn rule on the paper. As long as someone plays this game, the strange creatures collected by Xiao Yan will still appear. They just won't target me. I have a bad relationship with the Special Affairs Department. It's not to that extent. Qingji just took it over, but Hong Ying snatched it away. Then the more she looked, the more excited she became. This set of game rules is simply unsolvable. As long as you participate, you will die. But his ability is to let shadows take the fall. The merit is practically served on a plate. Not taking it would be foolish. Xingji turned and looked at Yuan Zhen's. Now, I officially invite you to join the special department. Once you join, you can have everything you desire. Wealth, power, and obstacles for mission takers. No matter who it is. I can act first and report later. If anyone gets in my way, I'll kill them. If a god gets in my way, I'll kill the god. The Public Security Bureau is at your disposal. Hong Ying was so excited that upon starting, he immediately received 50 million. They even gave him a house and a car. He didn't agree immediately. The conditions remain impeccable, so the price to pay is slight. His gaze is serious. That's right. Once you become an overseer, when assigned to investigate anomalies, you cannot refuse. But overseers can collaborate on investigations, like Hong Ying and I. When carrying out missions, inspectors are constantly in mortal danger. We even risk our souls using forbidden items, so we deserve those rights and riches. However, so far, aside from the section chief, no inspector has lived longer than 10 years. As time goes on, their mental state deteriorated, until they died. But the special division doesn't force anyone to join. Yuan Jinsher looked thoughtful. Is there another option? Hong Ying immediately jumped out. Just join my club. Monitors who join clubs aren't under the special division's jurisdiction. You just need to help me complete the tasks. There just aren't as many benefits, but it's more flexible. We'll split the future earnings 50/50ths. He got more and more excited as he spoke. Assistant Qi Xiaoying, Roa said, you can also join other clubs. Shut up. Loose lips sink ships, you know. Reach out your hand. Humanity's enemy is the grotesque, not humanity itself. Isn't that right? Right. Then join the special division. I want to form my own club. Then 2 figures appeared before my eyes. Fatty. Glasses. The name of the club is Ghost Club. Not long after, a few people left. Hong Ying was so angry she ground her teeth. The duck that was within her grasp flew away. Serves you right for talking too much. Yuan Jinshi stood on the balcony. Her hand slowly cracked open. The situation just now was critical. If they hadn't joined, the two of them would probably have directly eliminated this unstable factor. In the crack of the palm, an eye opened. It shouted, "Mom." He looked at Xiaoyi. Long before the special department arrived at his door, he had already embedded his ability. Just in case, if either of them makes a move, we'll strike immediately, to prevent future trouble. They're probably thinking the same thing. With Ono's ability, although we still can't kill the monster, we can protect ourselves. Next, let's check one by one. Let's see what exactly is strange about the calculations from Qian and Bai. What is happening in the school? Xia and Bai have been sitting in the classroom all day. The president seems to have not come to school today. He secretly went to the office for this reason. He found that his leave request was signed by the security office. I wonder if he received the reminder message I sent. Should I go to his place? Phone vibrates. I don't know how Chun Manhwa Kai managed to become so popular nationwide. Ask him to come back and buy some things for the apartment across the hall. Little Lin sent over one of his favorite plushies. She even included a photo of herself. I can't refuse the little girl's kindness. So I decided to go to the Qianchuan Mall near Li Yuanjin's private residence. Her parents chatted with each other back home. Since their daughter started at the new school, she seemed much more cheerful. She then placed the doll beside her bed. Her father said with feeling that they had made the right decision moving. He then sighed and left the room. After all, their daughter's nerves were, to put it mildly, a bit much. Unbeknownst to them, the doll's eyes slowly rolled. I found Chitos and Bai, the clever one. Daughter Chitos and Bai were completely unaware of the danger approaching. They arrived at the Asakawa Mall, preparing to take gifts home. The time of the memory was 5:59 p.m. The little boy immediately recognized the idol ahead, shouting to take a picture. Meanwhile, Qian and Bai were captivated by a doll in the window display. Suddenly, music played over the loudspeaker. It was 6 p.m. Ah! Many people stared at the clock. They couldn't believe the rumors were true. This mall really did play this song at 6 p.m. The murmurs grew louder. What legend? It's all fake. There are no ghosts in this world. But Qian and Bai were already frozen in place. Their hearts were racing uncontrollably. This mall isn't clean. The murmurs from nearby reached their ears again. It turns out this mall used to be an orphanage. One person echoed. That's right, my grandmother told me. People used to see all sorts of shadows around here. Some even encountered a strange woman looking for children. I think the legend is true. Now, here's the problem. How can we avoid it? That's right, just wear these noise-canceling headphones from my house. It can eliminate these annoying noises. He really is a sales genius. This broadside caught him off guard. Xian and Bai directly found a quiet person. He took a deep breath, took out a lucky coin, muttering something under his breath. A spell. Indigenous Dream C Map. Dream card fierce. Who C Map. Fierce Who card. Big sweet potatoes, baked sweet potatoes, 1 yuan can buy 3. But as I was chanting, he suddenly froze. What am I doing? What is this music? Where am I? In a daze, he suddenly heard someone speaking nearby. He saw a man and a woman standing over there. The man complained, the mall. They clearly know there's a courtyard here. Why do they still keep it open? The woman sighed. This is the largest business district nearby. Even though something like this happened, it'll probably be over in a few days. Hurry up and get to work. He squatted in the corner. These two are as capable as the president, but his intuition tells him, these two are dangerous. He was about to pick up the coin that had fallen on the ground, to calculate his fortune. Suddenly, his hand was grabbed. A voice came from behind, Sister. Sis, it's so hot here. I want to go outside. His pupils dilated in shock. He forcefully shook it off. It's a wraith. But the man and woman didn't notice it. He rushed forward, shouting, run, danger. Have you seen my child? The two executioners were decapitated, dead beyond dead. He trembles uncontrollably, utterly hopeless. He looks at himself again. Suddenly, countless figures appear before him. All turn their heads to look at him. The scene is terrifying. Wait, something's not right. This is an illusion. They are not dead. Everyone he saw was fake. Only the woman in red is real. So he desperately ran backwards. As long as he could open his hand, he could survive. While running, his glasses fell to the ground. He kept searching, to a safe place. Finally, she hid in the bathroom, curled up in the corner. Even though she had the guidance of fate, her power was too weak. She couldn't even rely on the spirit practitioners outside. There was no safe place left in the mall. A knock on the door. but the one knocking on the door was from inside the bathroom stall. Then the woman's head slowly appeared. Her hair kept growing longer. "Could you turn off the faucet for me now?" The black strands of hair kept gathering towards her eyes. It was concentrated. She hadn't even seen the person clearly. She just thought someone was asking for help, struggling to speak. "Who are you?" "I can't see," but she heard the dripping of water, and habitually turned off the faucet in front of her. "Thank you," a voice came out. She began to lose control. He saw his reflection in the mirror, eyes vacant, a giant mouth pressed against his head, ready to bite down. His vision went black. Death felt closer and closer. "Am I dying?" A loud bang echoed beside him. Red light flashed, accompanied by screams, then nothing. His vision slowly returned. He saw a familiar figure standing in the doorway. "Is this the danger you were talking about? It seems a bit weak." Xian Yubai looked at Yuan Zhenxi, tears welling up in his eyes. He quickly ran a few steps and rushed over. Yuan Zhenxi held him off with his hand. Then he sighed. He took out a broken eye from his chest. Using the restorative power of the small eye, he repaired the crack. Then he handed it over. Slightly annoyed, "You're always so forgetful. Don't lose it again." "Then, you walked outside. Walking, you said, 'No need to thank me. Just answer my questions honestly later.' As soon as you stepped out, 2 people blocked your way. The red-haired one said, 'You must be the overseer, right? We are the scavenger team, responsible for exorcising and cleansing the ghosts. The other person holds an instrument that keeps working. It seems to be detecting something.' At this moment, the scene is chaotic due to the explosion and blood. Suddenly, a group of people holding megaphones rushes out. 'Everyone, please don't panic, we're just filming a scene. Compensation will be provided to everyone present.' The redhead said, 'Those are my colleagues in charge of calming things down, preventing panic.' Yuan Zhenxi nodded. 'Then what's that device I keep seeing?' The inspector is rarely seen. The two of them looked a little nervous. 'It's just a spiritual pressure generator. The soul orb can simulate the spiritual pressure of the 3rd stage. An ordinary person can use it to deal with vengeful spirits. It can also enhance spiritual power.' Yuan Zhen's brow furrowed tightly. Then, she reached into her clothes and fished out the spirit stone she had just killed. She had indeed obtained a bead. So this is the soul orb. But this thing can't absorb it on its own. I wonder if it's only limited to me. So I looked at Chio and Shiro next to me and chuckled mischievously. Aren't they the perfect guinea pigs? Chio and Shiro were confused. Their little faces flushed red from being stared at. Then the group bid farewell to Yuan Zhenxi. Xian Yu and Bai followed behind as Chio and Shiro walked in front. The 2 cleaners whispered to each other. "I didn't expect this inspector to be both handsome and young. The other one must be the boss's girlfriend, right? This couple is officially set today. Isn't Xian Yu Whiteface even afraid of his girlfriend? Well, it's not like it's impossible. The president has such good hearing and didn't say anything. Does that mean he agrees?" Little do they know, Yuan Zhenxi wasn't even listening. "Although I'm in the 3rd rank like Akiji and the others, I can clearly bear the rules possessed by the anomaly much better. Akiji and Hongying need to rely on rule items. As for those 2 just now, they're not even rank 3. I didn't expect to be among the best in this world." Chiyu Hakataku started to let his mind wander. "The president came to see me specifically. Is this what love is?" He gathered his courage and asked, "Are you here to buy something too, President?" Yan Zhenxi turned around and asked, "Didn't you say there was a problem near my house?" "Just out for a walk, trying my luck." He secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, he was clever. "Just hold on, as long as you're not embarrassed. No one will know. They'll call me a fool for my crush." Yuan Zhenxi continued. When he just arrived, he saw the security guards running frantically, shouting that there was a vengeful spirit in the mall. He turned to look. The entire mall is filled with a strange spiritual pressure. The situation has already spiraled out of control. He investigated a bit. He discovered that decades ago, this place was specifically used to burn the bodies of infants. It's unclear which feng shui master claimed this was a land of fortune, but eventually it was bought by someone. It was then turned into a mall. The bosses made a fortune. Business was booming. But one day, a mother and son suddenly vanished without a trace. The woman was wearing a red dress. At that time, surveillance technology wasn't so advanced. The staff searched every corner nearby but found no clues. From then on, every evening at 6 p.m., the sound of children crying can always be heard. What's more, there have been sightings of a woman in red. The bosses didn't want to give up this cash cow, so they sought guidance from an expert. That's when they learned that the abandoned baby factory harbored strong resentment. The missing people were all victims of vengeful spirits from this place. The first mother and child to go missing became vengeful spirits themselves. The final solution was to use the lullaby. I'm sorry, this song suppressed the resentment. Since then, no more disappearances occurred in the mall. But the song couldn't put the vengeful spirit to rest. This method only treated the symptoms, not the root cause. Qian and Bai quickly said, he heard this song. And then the song changed into another sound. Holding my breath, I started seeing hallucinations. Yuan Zhen stroked his chin. This has happened a few times these past couple of days, but it's only gotten this bad today. Your prophecy also mentioned danger. Could it be that there's an even stronger monster here? Xian Yubai silently clenched her fists. He murmured to himself, it shouldn't be because of a stronger anomaly, it's because he's here. Yuan Zhenshi turned around and said, you're too weak. You almost became a corpse just now. But you can't be blamed for that. Vengeful spirits can distort people's perceptions. Otherwise, with your spiritual power, you could never have gone to the area with the heaviest resentment in the beta test. He cried bitterly. He felt so weak. Yuan Zhenshi looked at him and said, you must be here to buy something, right? I'll accompany you. He quickly wiped away his tears. His heart started racing again. That evening, the two of them arrived at the restaurant. The place was already empty. Yuan Zhenshi stretched out her hand and placed it below. Is this okay? I asked. Senyu and Shiro nodded seriously, their expressions more solemn than ever. Then, he loosened his hand, and a coin dropped. He caught it, flipping it repeatedly. Is this your tool? Xian and Bai's words were correct. I call it the coin of fate. The girl has a coin of fate. It lands heads up. She will learn everything she wants to know. If it lands tails up, she will lose a certain number of days of memory. Yuan Zhenshi suddenly understood. No wonder Qianyu and Bai take notes every day. A 50% chance of memory loss means she could forget everything from the past 2 or 3 days at any time. Such a special coin. And she didn't notice anything before. Qianyu Bai looked at the coin. Perhaps he recognized it. As long as he lives, it will be useless in anyone else's hands. Yuan Zhenshi teasingly picked up the cup. Aren't you afraid I'll kill you and take him for myself? He quickly shook his head. The coin told him that the ghost society is the safest place for zombies. Yuan Zhenshi gave a bitter laugh. Safety means nothing if you can't resurrect. The ghost society would already be wiped out. Wait, could it be that the safety he mentioned refers to himself? So, he asked me to ask the first question. Who am I? Qianyu Bai was filled with question marks. What kind of question is this? Aren't you just you? But still, following the instructions, I tossed the coin. The coin slowly spun in the air. Invisible energy gathered and it fell. He caught it in an instant. But for such a simple question, what was revealed was the opposite. His eyes narrowed instantly. Didn't they say the opposite would cause memory loss? Is he lying to me? Xian and Bai closed their eyes tightly. They faintly apologized. Answering questions as the president consumes memory in units of 1 day. The limit is 30 days. Your question exceeds my 30-day limit, so the coin can't answer. The question is void. Yuan Zhenxi smiled slightly. Such an overpowered item. It would be normal for it to have a bug. Now, let's move on to the next question. Why is the safest place for a zombie the ghost society? Qianyu Bai let out a long sigh, and said frankly, change the question. He had already asked this question, and couldn't answer it. Then, the coin was tossed up again. Yuan Zhen said, then let's ask, what do I have at home now? This time, the coin landed heads up. He looked at the coin in terror. President, there's something terrifying at your home. And then there was nothing else. Yuan Zhenxi was silent for a moment. He stood up and said, quit the club. Such a power is unnecessary. Unless you have greater abilities. I bid farewell to Qianyu Bai. Don't let a third person know about your prophetic abilities. Then I handed over the soul pearl I had obtained earlier. This one is for you. Consider it compensation for forcing you to use your abilities just now. I have to get stronger quickly. Qianyu Bai treasured it as if it were the most precious thing. Yuan Zhen's doesn't care. Remember to attend the club activities tomorrow. Then he walked further and further away. He bowed at a 90-degree angle again. He shouted, thank you, President. Passers-by were startled. What's wrong with this guy? Yuan Zhen's quickly sped up his pace. As long as I'm not embarrassed, no one will know I know him. But I didn't expect Xian and Bai to run ahead so quickly. They were shouting they wanted to walk together while running. His movements froze in place. He couldn't run. He couldn't not run. I thought I had found a treasure. It seems that I was reckless. When I got home in the evening, I had barely sat down. When my door was knocked again, I opened the door, and my neighbor, Xiao Song, was scratching his head, asking to borrow something. Last time it was scissors. This time it's a rice washing bowl. In the middle of the night, he said he wanted to wash rice and cook. Yuan Zhenshi didn't answer immediately. He stared intently. A strange murder requires breaking the rules. But the neighbor in front of him, aside from borrowing things every day, had no other motives, and always wore a harmless smile. So, he deliberately said, sorry. Even though it's the middle of the night, I'm washing rice and cooking. I won't be angry at you anymore. As soon as I said that, his fake smile changed slightly. He seemed a little happy. He opened his mouth and calmly said, is that so? It's okay. Then turned around, and walked off with a quick step. The whole process, Yuan Zhenshi kept staring at her. She must have triggered some kind of rule. But when the soldiers come, you face them. When the water rises, you dam it. If all else fails, she can still respawn. Returning to the room, Xiao Song slowly walks into the kitchen. The smile on his face grows wider. I borrowed it, thank you. Hello, neighbor. On the other side, Yuan Jinsher returned to the kitchen. He was preparing to make something for Xiaoyi. Can't let the child go hungry. But he was shocked to discover his pot was gone. The entire kitchen, except for the rice washing pot, everything else was still there. He had been extremely vigilant, but something had been taken, without him noticing a thing. Lost in thought, he heard the doorbell ring again. A voice came from Mr. Yuan. It's me, Xiao Song. His right hand instantly radiated a mysterious energy. One eye opened. He opened the door and left. A familiar fake smile came into view. Mr. Yuan, here is your pan. Thank you for lending it to me. In that moment, he was absolutely certain that he had already fallen into Xiao Song's rules of murder. He's provoking me. The man's pupils dilated. When did he step into his trap? He forced himself to stay calm. He took the pot. Then he watched as Xiao Song walked further and further away. We need to quickly figure out his rules for killing. Otherwise, we'll just be waiting to die. In the few days since he moved in, he's borrowed things from how many people? On his first day here, he went door to door giving gifts. When he first went door to door borrowing things, how many people could actually refuse? Avoid death. So I took out my notebook and started taking notes. First, accepting a gift puts you under the rules. But even if I don't accept it, there will be a second delivery, or even a third. Can anyone really avoid it? The little guy across from me gestured incessantly, pointing to the side, toward Mom's neighbor. Spiritual power surged in his eyes, as his psychic energy diffused outwards. I didn't expect that after Xiao Song shifted the blame from himself, he'd go straight to Aunt Tian's place next door, and start knocking. Yuan Zhenzi's right hand and a small eye ability merge together. In the next moment, the eye in the palm opens a slit and peers through. Countless black lines gather on the door. Then, an eye condenses and emerges. The scene next door comes into view. Aunt Tian can be seen laughing heartily as she says, I'll go get it now. And what Xiao Song wants to borrow is still the rice washing pot. But in his impression, the neighbor aunt was clearly hard to get along with. She rarely spoke. Yet, on the first day he met her, she clearly didn't seem to like him, but still accepted the gift. Then the next day, she even borrowed a pair of scissors. He could subtly manipulate people's thoughts, and make them willingly keep quiet. Then it was borrowed. After Komatsu borrowed the pot, he walked over with a clatter. Then, he arrived in front of Yuanjin Temple again. And in that instant, even though it was through the door, the strong sense of déjà vu made his heart skip a beat. It was as if he had seen it. He watched for a moment, smiling. Then he slowly walked away. Xiao Song's shadow in the lamplight looked especially eerie. Yuan Zhen's returned to the sofa, and touched Xiao Yan. Now that both you and Xiao AI have been restricted by the special branch, I have to take a risk. Otherwise, even if Xiao Song doesn't kill me, the legend says that once the points are used up, you will die. Then he sighed. Will you help me this time? The little one squinted his eyes. He jumped straight off the couch, then skillfully picked up the remote control. Yuan Zhen thought to himself, speechless. His mother was almost out of life. He was still watching TV. Then he opened the door. Xiao Song hadn't gone far. He followed him all the way. He reached his house. The moment he entered the door, he made his move. At his speed, this distance was covered in an instant. But after entering, he found that the small wind that should have been facing away from him was now standing straight. There was a bucket placed on the glass. You've come. A strange laugh slowly echoed. It grew louder. Yuan Zhen's gaze instantly lost focus. The necklace around his neck glowed red. Countless vines spread around him, wrapping him up. Then the sound of chewing. His hands and feet were instantly severed. His head fell to the ground. His last conscious thought was of Komatsu behind him. The necklace on his neck dimmed. He seemed to have been eaten. Yuan Zhen's woke up in his living room, gasping for breath. He looked at the eye in his hand. He hadn't even had a chance to fight back. Everyone in the complex was now a lamb to the slaughter. Whenever he wanted, he could consume them, including himself. And in the last 2 days, the frequency of his borrowing things had increased. Suddenly, his arm was yanked. His eyes trembled uncontrollably. Mama, Mama. Yuan Zhen squatted down, and picked him up. I didn't spoil you for nothing. Finally thought of your old mother, huh? He lowered his head, and tears streamed down his face. A child's voice cried out, Xiao AI is gone. Yuan Zhen's body jolted. He struggled to control himself. He patted Xiao Yan's head. It's okay. I'll handle it. He then took out his necklace. Unease nodded him. Could they have taken advantage of the time I was being revived? Then the notebook appeared. I called out to Xiao AI. The notebook's pages flipped rapidly. It stopped on a page about the underworld girl. Then there was a ripping sound. The paper tore itself apart. They were both terrified. The paper slowly floated up. Then it dissipates. A few large characters appear. Huang Quan Maiden's death. He clenched his teeth. Xiao AI was his creation. His eyes instantly turned crimson. That damned Special Division. Not long ago, in the Special Division's conference room, the leaders of various factions had been in a meeting, deciding to launch Project Devour. The final vote result is 6:6. The man who opposed the plan earlier stands up again. Allowing the god to devour such a powerful Yomi girl will only make him stronger. Then, Kong Ping directly interrupted and shouted loudly. The final decision of the special department is to continue with the devouring plan. It will proceed. The old man sighed as he looked back. In a low voice, since that's the case, we are of no significance. That night, a car sped across the barren land, heading toward the sacred mountain. Inside the car sat the head of the special section, Kong Ping. He looked at the documents in his hands, constantly rubbing his brows. The strongest anomaly known, named as a god. Just the mere touch of the imagination could kill. Close to 100 meters, it could kill. Restricted within the divine mountain. Reached the gate. Stopped by someone for identity verification. Discovered the goddess. Humans have set up a high-strength barrier within 100 meters. No entry allowed. He took out his ID directly. While walking, he mentioned the special division. Kong Ping, then multiple layers of checks. 5 scans activated. Matching successful. Pupil scan matched successfully. Fingerprint scan matched successfully. Gene scan matched successful. Your identity is listed under the devouring program oversight. The entire sacred mountain is covered by a massive barrier. Inside, a group of people stands ready. Kong Ping coldly began. Then the broadcast sounded. All personnel, wear jamming devices. Retreat to a safe distance. Kong Ping turned and walked towards the monitoring area. Then pressed the button. The people in the prison trembled. Kong Ping's voice sounded in the room. Prisoner number 23977. Now press the confirm button on your phone. Your only child will have the right to receive your ashes. The man heard this, no longer suppressing the resentment. Hell communication is activated. Then he collapsed directly. Kong Ting, did you see the monitor? The Yomi girl. This time, you lost. Xiao AI. Yaming AI heard Yuan Zhen's call, but it was too late. His whole body began to petrify. In that instant, he saw the galaxy, countless stars in the universe. He saw God. His entire body shattered, inch by inch. The signal in the monitoring room was cut off. Kong Ping was deeply worried. The world's messenger had already told him the outcome. The gods would grow stronger again. It meant the girl of the underworld was no match for him. He slowly walked away, feeling increasingly lonely. At that moment, how he wished the girl of the underworld was alright. Facing a god like this, is there still hope for humanity? Even if the savior is a strange one, it's fine. Maybe when the god's growth is complete, that will be the so-called end of the world. The notebook in the room displays what has happened. The devouring plan has been carried out. Kong Ping used death row inmates to bring in the Yellow Springs girl. Then strange symbols began to appear. It's like it's been censored. I never thought there'd be someone even the notebook is wary of in the special division. He chuckled coldly. How Xiao AI died doesn't matter. As long as I live, she won't die. His palm rested on the paper. Expend 105,568 legend points to resurrect the Netherworld girl. Her lips curled into a slight smile. Yes. Special Branch led the Huangquan girl to the sacred mountain. She turned to stone the instant she saw the god. But the next second, Yuan Zhen's resurrected her at home. She's indestructible. She'll only become stronger. With a wave of his hand, he spared no legendary points to upgrade her power. This time, I will expand his influence nationwide. On Yomi AI, the original school uniform disappears. It turns into a skirt. The ability evolves successfully. The skill enhancement allows pulling other abnormalities into the netherworld. He looks at Yomi AI. He says, go. Give them a huge surprise. In an instant, people across the country harboring deep resentment received invitations to hell. Countless people scrambled for the red spider lilies in his hand. They were incredibly excited. Why should good people be bullied? Good and evil will be rewarded accordingly. They were no longer afraid. Evil people deserve to go to hell. Red spider lily petals fell continuously. Yuanjin felt like I was embraced by energy. My legend points, which were about to be depleted, directly broke through 1 million. At the same time, Section Chief Kong Ting, who was on her way back, received the news. One-shot kill. After getting out of the car, she was stunned. She saw the distant city bathed in red light. This is the first existence that can be resurrected after being devoured by a god. He calmed down. He picked up the phone again. He restarted the high-level meeting. 10 minutes later, the 12 representatives of supreme authority gathered once more. The man who had previously opposed the plan was also extremely nervous. Their actions had clearly angered the young girl. Everything that just happened proves it. And Kong Ping seems to have breathed a sigh of relief. The Devour plan ends here. Now, initiate forced interrogation. He'll use the headset to talk to the underworld girl. A spark of hope ignites within him. Maybe he can become the next god. And humanity might survive because of it. The old man who had opposed it earlier shouted, have you thought about it? The Anomalous Entities Alliance. As soon as he said this, everyone's pupils widened, including Kong Ping. He continued, the Hell Girl may not stand on our side. Then we will activate the devouring plan again. Let the god kill once more. If he can be revived, his power will be even greater. He will keep devouring and resurrecting, until his influence spreads across the world. Then other countries will bear some of our pressure. Kong Ping narrowed his eyes. Be careful with your words, sir. The old man slammed the table. Just get up directly, and bluntly say that you're old. Today, everything just seems off. We can't kill the god. Then let's drag everyone down with us to kill him. Someone nearby directly agrees, that's right. Even if what we're doing is wrong, we'll just be criticized at most. If there really is a monster league, we alone probably won't be able to resist them. It would be better to shift the burden to all of humanity. Kong Ping stepped forward. Regarding the monster league, a compulsory answer. Ermai can ask directly. The old man also stepped forward. Kong Ping could imagine it. He also thought about it. He questioned, if he became the second god of slaughter, what then? Kong Ping suddenly stood there deceiving himself. It was utterly ridiculous. If you shift the blame just because you're incompetent, is there any hope left? If other countries laugh at us, humanity will destroy itself. You all have such strong attitudes. Although you're elites in your respective fields, don't forget, you're just ordinary people. The elderly man's body, after walking away, stopped suddenly. Behind Kong Ping's cold voice came the words, we will protect you 24/7. The think tank listens to your opinions out of fairness, but we can choose not to listen. If you're dissatisfied, you can leave at any time. Mr. Xiang gently picked him up, but dared not offer any rebuttal. Leaving means you're unprotected. A few minutes later, Hong Ying yawned and pushed the door open. He had just fallen asleep after a 10-game losing streak in ranked matches when he was called in. Kong Ping told him straight up there was a mission. He interrupted him immediately. Get someone else. I refuse. He then found a nearby seat and sat down. Tang Ping said again that this task is something only you can complete. You'll be assigned the next task. Lu Kuo thought for a moment. It's not impossible. But Tang Ping mentioned that someone would come in the next few days to teach how to control resentment. Hu Yin had a bad premonition. Wait, resentment? Could it be the Yellow Springs Maiden? At this moment, it felt as if a huge eye was watching him with a mischievous gaze. Yuan Zhenzi, along with Yuming AI, had completely exhausted the scope of an entire country. This made his workload skyrocket. Yuan Zhenzi complained that it was all his clones doing the work. Why are you so tired? Yuming AI said, my body isn't tired, but my heart is. All the memories of the original body can be felt. Yuan Zhenzi quickly apologized. She weakly asked, can you beat Xiaosong? He said lightly, I don't know yet. His rules. I can't beat him. Yuan Zhenzi stared at the necklace in her hand, falling into deep thought. No matter what, at least now he has more of his cards in hand. Then, his mental energy activated. He discovered that Xiaosong had just come back from the 19th floor. The neighbor upstairs, the thin one, said it was strange. Why borrow it? The fat one then said, it's just a small favor. If I can help, I will. The fat man has taken the package. He's definitely dead. As for the skinny man, he might still have a chance. Suddenly, the doorbell at Komatsu's house rang. A deliverman's voice came from the hallway. Your delivery is here. But he found the door open. Meanwhile, the elevator doors opened. Xiaosong returned with the borrowed items, repeatedly saying, excuse me, excuse me. The delivery guy was just about to open the door and check, when Yuan Zhen flung the door open, and yelled, go, go, wrong address. He quickly took a look. He saw that the address said 19th floor, room 199, but this was the 18th floor. Fortunately, the reminder came in time. If he had entered on his own, it would have triggered some rule. He would have been erased on the spot. He looked up immediately. In an instant, he realized that Komatsu had already appeared behind him. He was coldly staring at him. Just as he was about to enter, he was stopped. Leave quickly, the owner of this place is suspicious. And you've gone to the wrong floor. Yuan Zhenzi looked up. In an instant, he saw Komatsu already behind him. Someone suddenly appeared behind him. It startled the delivery guy. Yuan Zhenzi was incredibly nervous. Approaching step by step, he said, oh, Mr. Komatsu, you're back. You're really busy, aren't you? Komatsu put on his signature fake smile. I apologize for disturbing you. I'm so sorry. It was clearly an extremely polite remark. But the atmosphere was strangely eerie. Yuan Zhen pushed the delivery person behind her. A red light flickered in her eyes. But she noticed that the evil spirit, Xiaosong, made no move. It seemed that even if she showed clear hostility, the rule for killing hadn't been triggered. So, a slight smile appeared on her lips. Since we're neighbors, could you take me to your place for a visit? Yesterday, he unleashed all his spiritual energy. He was directly killed as soon as he stepped through the door. He must have triggered the rules. Xiaosong's signature smile didn't fade. Of course. Please, come in. Yuan Zhenzi entered without hesitation, until the moment the door closed. He himself was not dead. That is to say, as long as the actions in his house were approved by him, the rules would not be triggered to immediately erase him. Then, he saw the bag next to the sofa. He then once again tested Mr. Komatsu. "Could you do me a favor?" Mr. Komatsu's expression was playful. The prey in front of him made him almost salivate. His tone, however, was extremely polite. "What do you need help with?" "Happy to help." Genji pointed to the gift bag behind him. "Speaking of needing a bag at home, can I have one?" The man scratched his head. "Oh, you need a bag." Then he tilted his head, smiling as he watched Yuan Zhen's slowly approach. He didn't say a word. His hand stopped abruptly just as it was about to touch the bag, staring at the little pine tree in front of him. Their eyes met. This was a contest of wits and courage. If he were to be even slightly careless, he would be instantly annihilated by the power of the rules within the room. If entering the room required permission, then taking the bag should also require consent. The little pine tree's words just now were ambiguous. It wasn't explicitly stated that I could take it. I still felt I was in a dangerous situation, so I immediately withdrew my hand, and said with a smile, "Is it inconvenient? If you don't agree, I won't take anything without permission." Xiaosong then directly picked up the gift bag and handed it over, politely saying, "Please accept this." In that instant, Yuan Zhenshi felt the bag grow heavy. It seemed like something was inside. Could it be a gift that was never delivered? But then he heard Xiaosong mention that he still had to return something. His eyes narrowed slightly. Is this an eviction order? If he insisted on staying, he would likely be swiftly eliminated. So I casually said, "I'll think about it some more." I said goodbye and turned to leave, but I was immediately called back. Xiaosong reached directly into the gift bag, and said, "Hey, wait a minute. These are all delicious local specialties." He pulled out a package of sandwich cookies, and said, "Try one. It's really delicious." Then, with one bite, the juice bursts out. He breaks out in a cold sweat. What's going on? Did he trigger a new rule? Look at his expression. Whether he eats or not, he's going to die. Then, I'll use this life to try to gather more information. So he also took a cookie from the bag, and swallowed it in one bite. But the moment he swallowed, his pupils dilated. After a dry heave, his consciousness gradually faded, and he fell forward. Komatsu behind him was laughing while eating. This isn't a biscuit. It's a finger. A human finger. Something special on the other side. Ko Kongping single-handedly vetoed the restart of the Devour plan. He personally said he would meet the Netherworld girl, Hong Ying's shadow, the best candidate for taking the fall. But recently, we discovered a sharp third-tier college student. His ability is resurrection. Yuan Zhenshi sat up on the living room floor, gasping for breath. Necklace, Hongguang, Great Sage. The notebook shows bleeding. Eat the corrupt finger of the evil spirit. Obtain some of the rules. Rule 1. An evil spirit moves into the apartment complex. This automatically makes all residents neighbors. Rule 2. Regardless of how many people live in a unit, they are only connected to their designated neighbors. This includes the supernatural beings. Rule 3. Once subordinates meet, Xiaosong will start incessantly borrowing things. What I borrow, I return. Rule 4. If you refuse, Komatsu can take it by force. Rule 5. As the days increase, the items from Komatsu's world will get bigger and bigger, until a question mark. Rule 6. Refuse Komatsu's meeting gift, and a question mark. The remaining 5 rules are unknown. Everything is a question mark. To understand the rules, you need to try it yourself. But every death is a mental strain. Then I saw Xiao Yan and Xiao Ai next to me eating cookies. Xiao Ai even kindly handed me one. I remembered the fingers earlier. A wave of nausea hit me. Yuming Ai didn't understand and said, "It's obviously a good thing." Xiao Yan was eager and impatient, but there was no way to hide it on her face. Yuan Zhenzi was holding her throbbing forehead. Xiaosong should be in the same situation as Xiao Ai, a disaster-level event. Such a strange occurrence must be dealt with as soon as possible. He then looked at Yuming Ai. "Do you remember how you died?" Little Ai. Her expression was terrified. Then she lowered her head. Her mood was low. She only remembered what she had seen. And then she lost consciousness. But what was it? I can't remember at all. He held Little Ai, and tried hard to recall. This shouldn't be happening. I've completely lost face in front of Master. Yuan Zhen's hurriedly stopped him. Just forget it if you can't remember. Maybe it's a good thing that I can't remember. Perhaps the notebook is protecting him in a way. But the Special Division possesses such dangerous abilities. It is extremely disadvantageous for them. Their goal is to eliminate anomalies. Their power has always been resurrection. But what if they discover their ability actually creates anomalies? I'm afraid they will become humanity's public enemy. But since they've already joined, we might as well use their resources. But I need a reason. Yuming tilted her head, completely lost. Yuan Zhen's continued. In Xiaosong's rules, neighbors include monsters. You and Xiao Yan are involved in this as well, and your rule needs to know the name before it can be activated. Now we'll see whether the Special Affairs Department captures Xiaosong to deal with you, or if I learn the name first and capture him. At dawn, Hong Ying will be driving a sports car, with Yuan Zhensi. Today is the day he starts his job at the Special Affairs Department. Yuan Zhensi said, dragging his chin. Why is it you who made this? Hong Ying complained. I'm on vacation. I just happen to be free. I call it a vacation, but I'd rather call it the Last Supper. They asked me to prepare myself, to meet the girl of the underworld. Yuan Zhenji intentionally asked. The hell girl hasn't appeared recently. Have you contained her? Hong Ying's gaze instantly became sharp. Xuanji cried loudly. Every time she sees him, she almost loses her life. And after killing him last time, Yuming AI was resurrected, stronger than before. This time, I made myself talk to him again. Yuan Zhen's eyebrows furrowed. She asked, you can still talk to him? A sense of wariness stirred within her. He killed Xiao AI. Is it a stronger monster, or some kind of tool, like a notebook? Hong Ying chuckled. She smiled and whispered in his ear. Let me tell you a secret. The Netherworld Maiden is conscious. Yuan Zhen's froze. He thought to himself, what kind of secret is this? But his expression, as Hong Ying saw it, he seemed like a serious, knowledge-seeking junior. The caution he had earlier disappeared immediately. How could a student possibly harm a human? I was too sensitive. Then, I talked about how I've been learning to control my feelings of resentment recently. If I feel adequately prepared, I will summon Yuming AI to compel an answer. The likelihood of Yuming AI having companions is extremely high. Yuan Zhen's heart skipped a beat. Hong Ying then said, it's also possible that there isn't. After all, it's all just speculation. Then the car drove into the special department. For the special department to pay such a price, it can't be just about this one question. I don't know if we can get Xiao AI to reveal who the accomplice is, or just ask directly what his new rule is. So far, it's still unclear. Neither Xiao AI nor I stand on the opposite side of humanity. Xiao AI is not a senseless killer, but if they keep pushing us, there will be no peace. Then I will have no choice but to become the king of hell, and fight against the whole world. Who would have thought that in the highest organization fighting the anomalies, it was surprisingly quiet and deserted, extremely peaceful. Then, a huge eye slowly turned above. Hong Ying patted Yuan Zhen's shoulder. That's the Eye of Truth. One of its functions is to scan identities. It helps identify spies. We have already uploaded your data. Another function is to access all of a person's secrets, but the cost is high. Then, he waved his hand, but he can't scan anything unusual, so it can only be placed at the front door to scare people. Then, he opened the door. He entered a room. Now, it's time to get down to business. At the end of the room, a machine was hissing. Hong Ying continued, read the words above into the microphone in the middle, and you'll be a member of the special section. Also, using it consumes 1 day of your lifespan. Yuan Zhen's lips twitched slightly. He only had 86 days left to live. Even though I have enough legend points to revive at any time, it costs 1 resurrection per day. It seems a little wasteful. Hong Ying approached, and asked with a smile, what's wrong? Are you scared or afraid of dying? Yuan Zhen sipped his policy tea. I'm just curious. What is this? A lie detector? Hong Ying snapped his fingers. Bingo. It's similar. It can test your thoughts and subconscious. It's more advanced than a lie detector. You will need to be tested every 6 months. This is to check if you've been judged. Yuan Zhen closed her eyes. He asked tentatively, will I get new permissions after the test? This time, it was Hong Ying who was caught off guard. Permissions? What kind of permissions do you want? Yuan Zhen casually said. For example, the permission to view the anomaly files. Hong Ying's eyes instantly narrowed. What do you want to know? Or who do you want to look up? If it's the Huangquan girl, don't even think about it. Disaster-level anomaly handling protocols are only accessible to the section chief and the think tank. He then tossed his head and said, your clearance only matches your current rank. He then added coldly, if you try anything funny, I'll take care of it now. Yuan Zhen smiled. He knew he had aroused his suspicion, so he picked up the microphone and began to speak. I will never betray humanity. After he spoke, the entire device erupted in an unprecedented buzzing sound. It hasn't stopped for a long time. Hong Ying is on high alert. He's lying. Yuan Zhen's small eye ability is attached. Prepare to fight at any moment. Just as Hong Ying is about to make a move, the polygraph voice sounds. Test passed. Both of them were scared stiff. Yuan Zhen said, shouldn't your props be a little ashamed of themselves? Scared me to death. Hong Ying wiped away some sweat. Let's talk. Fill out the form. Yuan Zhen had already thought of a name. He chose the codename Ghost for himself. As for the club's office location, they chose the school. Hong Ying leaned in again. As your senior, I'm reminding you, the more people there are, the higher the chance of anomalies appearing. Research shows that the rules of anomalies are greatly related to humans themselves. Yuan Zhen suddenly understood. It's your turn to rely on the internet to kill. Xiaosong kills by forcibly borrowing objects. Xia Ai kills using human resentment. Xiaoyan kills due to family disharmony. All of this is inseparable from humans. So, can one isolate the abnormalities and prevent future disasters? Because the appearance of abnormalities seems to be destined to destroy humanity. Yuan Zhenzi then realized that the strange phenomenon was a manifestation of human negative emotions. It appeared to eradicate humanity. If there were two large hands to separate the two, could it prevent the outcome of destruction? Suddenly, a hand swiped over. It interrupted his thoughts. Hong Ying thought Yuan Zhenzi was afraid. He said your Minghu apartment is a high-end one. With fewer people, the chances of encountering something unusual are extremely low. Yuan Zhenzi waved goodbye. Inside, he sneered. Unfortunately, his neighbor just happens to be, and he's already died twice. On his way home in the evening, he ran into Qian Yubai. I haven't been to school for a few days. He was worried something happened, so he came to see if he could help. Yuan Zhenshi refused him directly. Anything beyond my capabilities isn't help. It's a burden. And don't follow me. Do not get involved in the danger of Minghu apartment. Otherwise, the gang will come after you. Then slowly walk away. Tonight is destined to be an unrestful night. Then, he directly arrived at Xiao Song's doorstep. Today, he was going to block the door. As long as he seals this door, it would be like cutting him off from humanity. Unable to borrow things. Doesn't that mean I can't kill? And then, a thought struck me. The rules that were previously unclear are starting to reveal themselves. Rule 5. Komatsu will continuously borrow things, until he borrows a heart. Rule 6. Refuse Komatsu's meeting gift, and you only have one chance. Counteract the forced borrowing of items. Yuan Zhen's soul power surged out. There is still hope for those who refuse the greeting gift. As long as they ultimately reject the strong ring, their hearts will still be saved. I have to hurry and remind them. But then he suddenly felt something was off. It was as if Xiao Song's door could open at any moment. An eye suddenly opened in his palm. He instantly used the power of the small eyes slit. Countless hands surged towards the gate. Then the entire gate was submerged by them. He stared intently. Did it work? But then the entire gate suddenly caved in, and collapsed completely. The previously unknown Rule 11 has appeared. You cannot confine Komatsu indoors, because human houses cannot contain a bizarre grass, which is a plant. He cursed. How am I supposed to do this? On the sealed door, Komatsu's power was being continuously sucked into the vortex. He's completely prepared. He's risking his life with every rule. It's impossible. A voice suddenly came from within the vortex. Why are you standing at my door? Mr. Yen, can I borrow? Before he could finish, Yuan Zhenshi instantly went viral. Damn you. All my strength flows into my right hand. I throw a punch. The little pine tree in front of me suddenly disappears. It reappears behind me. The unfinished second half of my sentence follows. Your heart. In an instant, a hand pierces through, dying again. In the moment his consciousness faded, he felt, the human body is so fragile. If only I were a monster. Warning, outer garment evil. Neighbor has entered kill mode. The entire complex is awash in blood. Each scream was accompanied by a death. Countless tokens appeared in his hand out of thin air. No one in the entire complex survived, until a minute later. The original number 0 suddenly flickered, and changed to 1. He abruptly turned around to look at his neighbor's heart. At that moment, Yuan Zhenshi was just being resurrected, gasping for air at home. He smirked. He found that rule number 7 of seeing evil spirits had changed. Return Komatsu. A greeting gift can offset one forced borrowing. Now it's my turn to fight back. He stumbled to the kitchen. Komatsu was in the refrigerator, the first thing that was delivered. Suddenly, Gaina heard the door opening. At this moment, Xiao Yan was still watching cartoons. Curiously, he asked, "Who are you?" Xiao Song spoke again, "Can you?" Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by Yuan Zhenzi, who rushed out. He shouted, "Xiao Yin." Kuai's notebook alerted him that Xiao Song's target wasn't just humans. Xiao Yan wasn't a match for the calamity and the anomaly, so he recalled Xiao Yan back into the notebook. Xiao Song switched his target to Yuan Zhen's. He asked again, "Can I borrow your heart?" The power of the rules, accompanied by a heavy smell of blood, rushed towards him. Without hesitation, Yuan Zhen's immediately agreed. Then, he handed over the meeting gift. Xiao Song slowly retracted his sharp claws. Then, holding the gift bag, he slowly walked out of the room. He quickly followed her out. He wanted to know what had happened during the time he was revived. Spiritual pressure spread, but he found that the entire building, except for him, was devoid of any living people. His pupils were dilated. Suddenly, thud asterisk. A heart dropped to the floor. Komatsu bent down to pick it up. "I'm so sorry you had to see that. I'm really sorry." He slowly walked towards his room. The entire hallway was a living hell. At that moment, intense guilt flooded his heart. He provoked Komatsu, which caused him to snap. Otherwise, at least some people would have had a chance to survive. He had a splitting headache. It was as if countless voices were accusing him of being an accomplice to murder. They demanded his life. The resentment was so intense it had become vengeful spirits. He waved a hand. The roar commanded to be silent. The vengeful spirit instantly dissipated. He picked up the notebook to check the rules. Xiao Song had already killed all the neighbors. He himself was also bound to die. Why hadn't he left the position of 8911 in the rules yet? Then the door of Xiaosong's house creaked again. A demonic voice whispered in his ear, "Lend me your soul." Then my soul left my body, and flew towards Komatsu. Lifespan reduced by 1, remaining lifespan, 83 days. Back in the living room, I was revived again. I didn't expect that after borrowing his heart, I could also borrow his soul. Then the knocking came again. "Mr. Yuan, lend me your soul." Damn it. I realized I was trapped in a death loop. Quickly took out the phone, ready to make a call. Then with a thud, died again. Remaining life, 82 days. 1 minute later, the hand, which was previously motionless, slowly regained sensation. Yuan Jinshi dialed Qingji's number. The call went through. Breathing heavily, Qingji was just taking a shower. Lan asked lazily in the middle of the night, "What's the urgent matter?" He pressed his forehead. A cold sweat kept breaking out. He briefly introduced his situation. He needed all the information on the evil spirit, Little Song. Qingji exclaimed, "Disaster and strange happenings. It shouldn't be like this." Then, directly engaging with the evil spirit, Zaimatsu was restricted by the Special Affairs Department long ago, and then directly connected to the communication ear pulse. Lord Qingji has assigned me to access the strange file with the code name Evil Spirit. It needs to be fast. Send it to me directly via the brain fax machine. Then, the data stream in his eyes finished transmitting. Hastily, he said to Yuan Jinsher, "Return what you took from him. Otherwise, he will definitely die." Yuan Zhen's heart sank, because Xiaosong had come to the door again. He quickly said, "I've already returned it." It was no use. The large door was forcibly opened. He turned to look. He spoke into the phone. He's not borrowing a heart now. He's borrowing a soul. Then, from the other end of the line, he clearly heard something fall to the ground. He made a swift decision. I contacted Special Division's Evil Spirit Komatsu again. I performed a rule supplement. 1 minute later, a weak voice on the phone said, "Hello." The revived Yuan Zhens immediately picked up his phone. "Are you okay?" I asked. He replied with a weak, "Yes, I'm okay, but I'm going to die again soon." He's on his way. Qingji has already changed. In short, you've encountered bizarre rule completion. If vengeful spirits are formed from resentment, then bizarre creatures are the embodiment of rules. But their rules have loopholes, what are called certain death situations. Therefore, in order to complete the rules, they treat humans as nourishment, breaking through the original limitations. Stronger than the disaster level is the tyrant level. At that time, the special department sacrificed 4 inspectors, combining with replication and splitting seals, to split themselves into 100 parts. They confined it to a building. When about to finish the kill, have the next person copy again. The copied clone is just a walking corpse. As long as there is always a neighbor inside, it will never escape the building. Yuan Jinsher was somewhat speechless. If it were before, maybe the same trick could have been used again. But the upgraded version of him now requires a clear and intelligent soul. I suddenly realized how the evil spirits could escape. He must have discovered that their souls were incomplete. Such people don't deserve to be neighbors. Yuan Jins laughed. So troublesome. Send me the seal. He'd already thought of a solution. If I duplicate myself 100 times, my soul will also be split into 100 pieces. So when he eats part of himself, he will find that what remains is incomplete. At that point, he will no longer qualify to be Xiaosong's neighbor, thus ensuring his inevitable death. A desperate struggle for survival. Just as Yuan Jinsher activated the replication in Division Seal, a drone flew directly in from outside the window. The efficiency of the special department was astonishingly fast. Yuan Jinshi took out the seal, and pressed it against his chest. In an instant, both body and mind trembled. The soul began to evenly distribute as the body duplicated. Then, the scene became eerily silent. Suddenly, his neck stretched out infinitely, howling with his soul. The soul, all of it, was soul, but it will still take some time for all 100 of them to die. A notification pops up on the laptop. All the evil spirits' rules have been unlocked. Now Komatsu believes that Yuan Zhen's mind's only neighbor. Because his soul has been split, he will return the heart. He will continuously retrieve souls, and obtain Komatsu's true name, Matsunaga Hashira. Restart by suicide. Screams of pain, like water, endlessly poured from the depths of my soul. I didn't expect the cruelty and strangeness to be so persistent. Splitting my soul had no effect, but he got what he wanted. Until next time, Mr. Komatsu. And then, a full 100 souls were instantly annihilated. Life expectancy decreases again. 80 days remaining. 1 minute later, he is resurrected again. Xiaosong has already gone far, but he will soon realize he's not dead. He will visit again. So, he contacts Qingji. "I'm sorry we failed." But he came up with a way to restrain the current evil spirits. Then the notebook summoned them. He asked again, "I don't know if your special division has ever tried using the strange to deal with the strange." Qingji was stunned. They had used a divine weapon to kill the Hell Girl back then, but this secret was something even most of the overseers might not know. Could he be the one who resurrected the Hell Girl? Ji immediately shook his head. If that were the case, Yuan Zhen's wouldn't be trapped now. The evil spirit's rules. Silence hung on the line for a moment. Yuan Zhen's asked what was wrong. Did I touch on a classified secret again? Xinji calmed himself down. He asked what I planned to do. Yuan Zhen's in the room waved his hand, summoning the Underworld Maiden. He stated that he planned to use the Underworld Maiden to trap Xiaosong in hell. Then he made a "come closer" gesture to Yuming AI. Xinji on the phone was incredibly anxious. The Underworld Maiden's rules state that the person who writes the name will also go to hell, even after resurrection. I'll still be bound by the rules. Yuan Zhen's feigned curiosity. So, do you have any good ideas? Xinji was stunned. His dead rabbit glasses activated, quickly searching through data. Then he affirmed, using a monster to restrict another monster, in essence, is feasible. The cruelty and strangeness of the gaze. The girl who could be seen was ultimately trapped by the spatial restrictions created by the special item, the Ghost Buddha statue. But maintaining the enclosed space requires a vast amount of pure mental energy. Such items are extremely rare, even in the entire world. The Yuan Zhenshi series. To obtain such an item, you would need to. And then, another awkward silence. What ghost could you possibly get? Yuan Zhenshi spoke with a strong tone. Given my current situation, I'll just live one more day if I can. The little AI beside him was in complete admiration. Such acting, my lord. It would be a crime not to win an Oscar. Unaware, on the other side, Xinji already held him in the highest regard. Hell is empty. The devil walks among us. But Yuan Zhen's is willing to be trapped in hell forever. Xianji lamented, I am not as good as him. But he didn't know that Yuan Zhen's made this call, only to avoid future trouble. So, Xiao AI, let's get down to business. Rule ability enhancement. Notebook prompt appears. Would you like to spend 300,000? Legendary point equity. The Hell Girl will definitely die. The rule is. Would you like to spend 600,000? Legendary point to strengthen the Hell Girl. The rule is. Would you like to spend 900,000? Legendary ignition spring. Hell's Gate. From this point on, those cursed can no longer escape the Emperor's power. Yes, 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 choose all yes. From now on, without his permission, even the strange, can only fall into hell forever. So, Mr. Komatsu, I now know your real name. It's time to pay your debt. Yuan Zhen swept his hand, sending Matsunaga straight to hell. The scene instantly transformed, and in the next second, he appeared in Huangquan. Then, Komatsu slowly sat up. He scratched his head. His rule was to send first. He reached out in an instant. A gift appeared in his hand. Then he introduced himself as Xiaosong. Please take care of me. Suddenly, the entire blood sea was filled with giggling. Then countless shadows rushed out. He grabbed the gift bag. More people swarmed over. They rushed towards him. Yuming AI turned around. Aren't you fond of neighbors? Soon you'll have plenty of neighbors. At the bottom of the sea of blood, countless scarlet eyes flickered. The next day, Yuan Zhenxi stared at her dark circles in the mirror. The corpse flower on her body was incredibly noticeable. This was a mark she had deliberately left with Xiao AI, so that others would mistakenly think she too had been cursed. Then Xiao AI appeared behind her, holding Xiao Yen. The adult evil spirit has already settled in hell. Then a bag of things appeared in her hand. He went on, saying that ever since this guy moved in, he's been constantly sending out junk. The souls of hell are incredibly annoyed. Yuan Zhen's, however, covered his mouth and told him to keep it away. The exploding juice biscuit inside nearly made him faint. Then he patted Yuming AI's head, and comforted her, don't worry too much about it. He added, he can't send out special local products faster than you can guide souls. If worst comes to worst, just confiscate all his gifts. On your turf. He can't beat you. At that moment, the phone on the table rang. Qingji sent a message. After the observer deals with the anomaly, they must undergo psychological treatment. Arrangements will be made for home visits. Better do it myself. Special Unit Yuan Zhenshi straightened his clothes. Better go to their door. I have too many secrets. It's not the right time to expose them. Looking down, the entire neighborhood was under surveillance by the special unit. All the residents of the building had died overnight. The commotion was silent. They are handling the aftermath. Yuming sighed and said, after these people sign the non-disclosure agreement, they should be out of a job. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang again. Psychologist Shuali arrived at the door. He smiled and said, hello, Master Ghost. From now on, I'm your doctor. And also your neighbor. The gruesome scene from last night flashed back into his mind. The entire hallway was littered with corpses. Dr. Shirley's room happened to be Komatsu's old room. He took a deep breath. The room, once reeking of blood, had been thoroughly cleaned. Then I turned and left. While walking, Jianshi said, then let's start early. Shirley hurried to catch up, and explained, it's not surveillance. Last night, everyone in the special division was very worried. She then took Yuan Zhen's arm. So, starting today, I'll be your new friend. The pocket watch hanging around my neck swayed unintentionally. I sighed. This woman is not simple. That move just now really lowered my guard. Then she came directly to the sofa, took off her coat, and gestured for me to sit. Please lie down, Lord Ghost. and raised both hands. Then, like a charlatan, he blew on his hands. He took out a piece of jewelry and placed it on top, a product of special scientific research, a mind crystal. Then, the entire crystal rapidly turned black. Yuan Jinsi was puzzled. He asked what was going on. Shirley explained that turning completely black indicates immense inner repression and extreme pain, or that they have already succumbed to darkness. Their mind is tainted, teetering on the edge of losing control. Then he put his hair up. He took the pocket watch off his neck. Sorry, my lord. Allow me to try again. He looked at the swinging pocket watch. Yuan Zhen was stunned. He hypnotized him and grabbed Xueli's hand. I don't need hypnosis. But in that moment, I grabbed him. But he found that Xueli didn't struggle at all. She was soft and limp. He simply threw her off. He was careless and didn't dodge. Xueli's snoring sounded. Who would have thought that the one who was hypnotized wasn't anyone else, but himself? He opened his eyes again. The surroundings were a sea of blood. He gradually found it hard to breathe. He was falling deeper and deeper. Then the scene changed again. This is Lord Ghost's spiritual world. The city in front of him was filled with strange things. Radical apocalypse. In an instant, I looked up. A giant eye suddenly opened. Whispers echoed in my mind. Humans fight against the strange. Survival of the fittest. Then countless humans tragically perished beneath the strange forces. In the end, extinction. Xueli broke into a cold sweat. Has Lord Ghost started to disregard everything? Then, the entire world began to shake. A black sun appeared in midair. Then the ground cracked open. He kept falling. Suddenly, a giant eye appeared in front of him. Then it said, "You look so delicious." He was struck with terror. Could this giant eyeball also be a monster? The eye sprouted countless claws, and attacked him. In an instant, his body was covered in wounds. Is this the end? Then he reached into his pocket, and put a ring on his finger. The ring emitted a silvery white glow. It's a special item developed by the science department to counter psychic attacks. Then, push your hands forward. The incantation is uttered. All conditioned things are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, or shadows. It grows countless barbs, piercing into flesh and blood. Then the whole world shatters. The scene changes. He appeared above the lake. Heavy snow began to fall across the entire space. Lightning flashed across the sky. This is the second layer. Hashiai Ginshin's subconscious is just ahead. Then, a girl rowing a boat appeared in the distance. Yomi AI's boat slowly approached. He asked, "Are you here to see him?" This is the underworld girl. He was drenched in cold sweat. The girl's name was like thunder to his ears. He nervously gripped his arms in this moment. Who could have imagined the underworld girl was a subordinate of the Spectre? He tried hard to suppress his fear, and was just about to speak, but was interrupted. The cold voice of the Ghost Lord echoed, saying, "Tell the truth. Otherwise, you will fall into hell forever." Xueli shook off her fear this time, trembling as she said, "I just don't want the Ghost Lord to become strange. I hope you can help me stop it." In that instant, their gazes met. The Hades girl before her was not real. It should just be a mental defense set by the ghost. So I said, "Lord Ghost, you are truly outstanding. As a human, I don't wish to have such a formidable enemy, and he fights to the death against the aberrations. I wouldn't want such a good person to one day turn into an aberration. I will always stand by his side." Yumi and Iwenyan was silent for a moment. Then she took off her scarf. It was handed over. "I hope it can help you." Suddenly, the sea quickly turned red. A huge figure began to take shape. The Yomi girl. "Do you dare to be submerged?" Countless tentacles swept like snow lotuses. Just before they touch, the miracle ceased. The underworld maiden blocked everything. "Remember what you said. Quickly, go save Shirley who fell into the water." She kept swimming towards the depths. Going up would only lead to death. But I didn't expect what was below to be even more hellish. Countless ghosts and evil spirits howled, vying with each other. All ability users should die, just like how you can casually sacrifice me. But just as I was about to be consumed, I saw hope. In the deepest part of the darkness, there was such a pure light. "I see now. Lord Ghost, is this your inner demon?" Ignoring the evil spirit's erosion, your hands moved, weaving like in a dream. The psychiatrist risked his life to enter your mind, and at the brink of death, he wove a heaven-reaching dream. In the real world, Yuan Jinsher had placed the unconscious him on the sofa earlier, but Yuan Jinsher keenly noticed his faint breathing. He looked as if he could die at any moment. What on earth is this woman doing? First, she hypnotized herself, and now she looks terminally ill. In that instant, her spirits lifted. Intense pain. She collapsed directly to the ground. Then she fell with a thud. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself behind the ghost club. A voice sounded, "Fatty, I told you she was just sleeping. You didn't believe me, did you?" In an instant, he saw his two deceased friends appear in front of him. The fat guy even handed over his phone. It displayed a group chat message saying, "It's your turn." His eyes widened. How is this possible? Didn't they die? Weren't they killed in the "it's your turn" game? Could it be that everything is just a dream? So he snatched the phone, and furiously deleted the group. Then he raised his right hand, and slowly moved it closer, before swiping across the laptop. A prompt popped up, target captured and recorded. Your turn. Once recorded, they lose the ability to hunt netizens in the group. Is it included? At this moment, Yuan Jin-si, for the sake of his friend, is willing to transform into something strange, until his entire head is completely covered. The final prompt sounds, "Congratulations, Lord God. Your friend has escaped death." The two close friends are stunned. Jin-si, what happened to you? But even though they held on tight, Yuan Jinsi's figure was slowly disappearing. He forced himself to look at the two in front of him. Both of them were already in tears. No, don't become like this for us. Then they laughed loudly. We're already dead. It was good to see you, but you have to live. The two of them rushed forward. Jinsi, live well, both for yourself and for us. We saw how amazing you were. You're our pride. Their figures began to dissipate. Yuan Jinsi was puzzled, and asked why. Isn't it good that I'm getting stronger? Fatty said, what are you talking about? Of course it's good to get stronger, but your wish was clearly. Countless memories flooded my mind in an instant. Fatty, glasses, Xianyu, by Qingji. Then the sound of shattering glass. The dream shattered. Your wish has always been to eliminate the anomalies, and lead humanity to survival. After opening his eyes, he found himself standing on the balcony. This scene was so familiar. This was this morning. He was still dreaming. So he picked up his phone, and dialed Qingji's number. Let me ask you something. After all this is over, what will happen to those who were involved? What will become of them? Qingji didn't understand, and asked, is that important? Yuan Jin argued back. Aren't we protectors? We failed to save the entire neighborhood. That's the failure of us, the overseers. Why are they the ones who bear the consequences? Why don't the survivors properly settle down? Instead, they are made to suffer even more. What kind of guardianship mentality is that? I closed my eyes and remained silent for a long time. Then I received your opinion. I'll report it. The specific implementation plan still needs to be discussed. Phone hangs up. Yuan Jinsi turned around. Are you satisfied now, Dr. Shueli? Dr. Shueli. A woman was seen holding a ball of light in her hands. Standing there the whole time. She smiled and said, Lord Ghost. Sorry, but this is not my will. It is yours. Then she walked off to the side. Come on, let's walk out of the dream. After experiencing the double dream, the psychologist took out the crystal again. After unlocking the knot, the previously pitch-black crystal is now pure and flawless. Yuan Jinsi grasped it tightly. He asked in confusion, what would happen if the soul crystal remained black forever? What would be the outcome in the end? Shueli fell silent for a moment. She sighed. Then, she slowly spoke. My lord, you must have already guessed the outcome. Yuan Jin's also fell silent. Shirley's voice came, if one day you are unfortunately killed while fighting the aberrations, there's a certain chance you'll become one of them. Shirley thought Yuan Jin's transformation into an aberration in his dream was because he couldn't withstand their erosion, but she didn't know that he had actively embraced it. He used the notebook and expended billions of legends to transform himself into an aberration. At that moment, he was called the God Lord. After transforming into an aberration, he is all-powerful, but that's not him. His will and reason have been stripped away. Only slaughter remains. Then he reached out his hand, smiled, and said, don't worry. I'll stay true to my original intention, and I won't let myself become the monster in my dreams. Just then, the doorbell rang. Shueli got up and opened the door. Xian and Bai lowered their heads, their faces full of shame. Having not seen Yuan Jinsi for a few days, she was a little worried. She brought a gift to visit. Seeing no one respond, she hurriedly explained that she hadn't secretly added extra coins. Then, she slightly opened one eye and looked over. Wait, who is this person who spoke their feelings for so long and ended up expressing the wrong emotions? They don't even know the woman in front of them. So they apologized, saying, sorry, I came to the wrong door. Shueli covered her mouth and laughed, saying, you didn't come to the wrong door. I'm his neighbor. Yuan Jinshi also walked out from inside. Confused, she asked, how did you get here? Don't just stand there at the door. Xian and Bai immediately followed in, acting all eager. He, sitting on the sofa, kept staring at Shui. This is really beautiful, and it's so much bigger than me. I can't quite compare. Are they really neighbors? Meanwhile, Yuan Jinshi turned on the TV. Ever since I started writing stories, I've been following the news closely. There's been a recent surge in random kidnappings. The Security Bureau has linked this case to over 10 previous incidents, believing them to be the work of a serial offender. As soon as Shirley spoke, she glanced at Sen and Shiro beside her. Yuancho explained, he's a member of my ghost society. They are aware of the strange existence, but it's not a big deal to mention it. Shueli reports to the master. The recent indiscriminate kidnapping case has gone viral across the internet. The criminal is extremely cunning. The Public Security Bureau is applying to our special department for special tools. Yuan Jinshi is puzzled. Is it that serious? They even need to request. Special Investigation Unit takes action. But out of the corner of his eye, he saw Xiao AI suddenly appear at the door. He nodded to Yuan Zhen's. He made an excuse and left. After entering the room, he closed the door and summoned his laptop. Upon closer inspection, he found that there was indeed a problem with Xiao AI's performance. Logically speaking, after the upgrade, even if Xiao AI's performance doesn't improve, it should still maintain a stable attitude. But now the growth rate has sharply slowed down. Xiao AI leaned in, full of resentment. Yuan Zhensi spoke up. Well then, Xiao AI, maybe we need to add a family member. I can't guarantee good things come to those who are good, but I can ensure that bad things come to those who are bad. The third legend is called the Ghost Call. Those who commit crimes, and are within the rules, will receive a strange voice message 3 days in advance. The message is their own scream 3 days later. And this time, the ringtone is New Beginning, a song composed by the child prodigy composer, Yu Xuanlin. His talent emerged 5 years ago, but it also attracted jealousy. Kidnapped by the abductors, taken hostage, demands for a huge ransom, and forbids contacting the police. But just as his parents prepared the ransom, it was exposed by the media. The surge in attention caused the news to spread nationwide. The police department responded urgently, but what they found was the girl's body. The investigation later revealed that before news of the kidnapping broke, the girl hadn't been mistreated. In fact, the kidnapper even created a quiet environment for her to compose music. Until the news appeared, she died tragically on the spot. And that composed piece, filled with his childhood yearning for the future, he named it New Beginning. A star fell, and was gradually forgotten. Yuan Zhen's closed his eyes, his mind summoning the ghost call rules as he wrote them out. The rules targeted kidnappers and robbers. The perpetrators would hear their own screams from 3 days in the future. The ringtone signals a new beginning. The ringtone cannot be silenced. Stopping the ringtone ends the game. Answering it erases the rules. If the ringtone sounds and no one answers, then in an instant, those listening to the song will suddenly find that the once pleasant melody has become somewhat terrifying. In a dark corner, a man is smoking while continuing his phone call. Big brother, the people from the Public Security Bureau found out. What should we do? The scene shifts. In the corner of the room, a man is tied up and lying there. The man says, "What are you afraid of?" Then, laughing, he said, "I'm just the henchman. You are the mastermind. Then turn yourself in, or you can keep having your brother." Without waiting for a reply, he hung up the phone. How ridiculous. Once the bow is drawn, the arrow can't be taken back. The woman had her mouth covered. Tears kept flowing. The kidnapper approached directly. He was just about to do something. The phone rang again. Damn, this isn't over, huh? Then he put the phone to his ear. In the next instant, a sharp scream was heard. What the hell? He cursed loudly. His phone shattered. He found his body wouldn't obey him. Countless musical notes from the phone converged on him, then enveloped his entire body. He screamed in agony. He felt like he was being cut to pieces. The pain was unbearable. The woman on the ground trembled all over. She was horrified to discover that the man's screams were identical to the ones from the phone call. The security department was incredibly busy that day. The captain and the man watched the surveillance footage in silence. The person who hired the kidnappers had been caught. He sat in the back seat, begging for mercy. It turned out the person who kidnapped the younger sister was the victim's older brother. Then the brother's phone rang. The police officer handed him the phone, warning him he had until 10. He took the phone. A scream came from the receiver. Even after the three of them turned off their phones, the ringing continued. Then he clutched his head in agony, his body shivering with cold. He held his head in his hands. He let out a scream like a phone's ringtone. Then he twisted it forcefully. It spun 180 degrees. From receiving the call to life or death, it took exactly 3 minutes and 35 seconds. The captain pinched the bridge of his nose. The call was clearly answered at 6 o'clock, but the call log shows 6 hours 3 minutes and 35 seconds. In other words, this phone call was made by Lin Zhong himself, just 3 minutes and 35 seconds before his death. At this time, the legend points of Yuan Jinji were rapidly increasing. He snapped his fingers. Suddenly, he remembered that after capturing Komatsu, he hadn't increased his own lifespan. So, he directly consumed 20,000 legend points, and extended his lifespan by 100 days. The prompt pops up again, indicating that spiritual power has reached the third level of perfection. Do you want to advance? On the other side, someone personally received the report from the Public Security Bureau. They told the Public Security Bureau that this is no longer something you can handle. Continuing the investigation will only lead to a dead end. Within 2 hours citywide, 328 kidnappers have leveled up. Their ages range from 12 to 80 years old. They all received calls from their future selves, screaming. The mind said, "You should quit. This is a bizarre murder. Ordinary people can't handle it. Every rule of murder requires a life to fulfill it." The melody called New Beginning is full of doubts. The special department has already filed it. Just then, the phone of the security team captain, Bai Xiaowei, rang. It was his mother calling. Xiaowei quickly rushed home. Something happened to your wife's family. The sudden tragic news was hard for him to accept. Xinji accompanied him to Xiaowei's home. His wife collapsed in his arms, crying loudly. How is this possible? I can't believe that her kind-hearted parents are the kidnappers. Bai Xiaowei comforted his wife. Xianji gritted his teeth and said, Your Excellency, I am not afraid to die. I must be allowed to participate in the operation. I will avenge my parents-in-law. Xinji sighed. Then please ask your wife to leave. His wife was in tears. She said it's too dangerous. Don't go. The man comforted her. It's okay. Then he paused. Later, you'll move in with my parents. He felt apprehensive. The special department needs guinea pigs. He feared the worst. After his wife left, he personally handed over the phone. We will take care of your family. Now, go ahead and call yourself using the deceased's phone. He answered the call. 3 seconds later, he slowly lowered it. Nothing happened. 8 hours later, the assistant held a large stack of files, and these were just the death toll within half an hour. The man looked at the documents, and asked how many people had died in total. Qi Xiaoying replied, 1,362 people. She then took a package out of her bag, and said it was from the man's wife. He opened it. It was his father-in-law's diary. Maybe it would be helpful to the case. Then he froze. The first entry was about burying a child, alive. That same day, his wife, Aya, came home. Her hair was messy. There were even more bruises on her body. It was her classmate who did this. Only then did she realize. This wasn't the first time. Little Aya was always bullied at school. She went to their house, but she never expected they would just throw money in her face. Scoffed, how could our baby be wrong? It's your daughter's fault. So she found someone to kidnap the child, and took her to her rural hometown. Then she dug a hole and buried her. Used to farm work, she did it all in one go. But she didn't realize that Aya's mother saw everything. Always kind, she just quietly approached. Then they took the basket and filled it with soil. They dumped it out and filled it again. Then they dumped it on the notebook, where the deceased's life story appeared. After they finished burying the two, they discussed turning themselves in when their daughter grew up. The man even wrote a diary, recording all the crimes in it, in case someone discovered it ahead of time. It's fate. It should be this way, no regrets. Yuanshan refers to the groping chin, using evil to fight evil. Looks like the ghost call has some loopholes. With a wave of his hand, he loudly stated the rule of compensation. If the kidnapper uses evil to fight evil, the ghost call cannot be captured. The entire laptop vibrated violently for a moment. Then a surge of energy rebounded. Legend says the entry point's ownership cannot be modified. The smoke dispersed. Genji narrowed his eyes. I was just modifying a rule. I didn't expect the consumption to be so terrifying. Then, the door was pounded again violently. A little girl's voice called out, Big brother, are you home? Yuan Jinsi smiled. In that instant, a phone rang. New beginning. The song came from his phone. The knocking grew faster and faster. Yuan Zhen's clenched his teeth. You asked for this. So young and already learning bad habits. Then I won't be polite. Who would have thought that the murderous ghost caller was just a kid who didn't even finish elementary school? He lifted him up. Then he threw it directly. He sternly said, if you play any more pranks, I'll lock you in notepad for life. Xiao Xuan rubbed the bump on her head. She pouted and said, got it, got it. Then she took Yuan Zhen's hand. She comforted, the supplementary rights rule needs 2 million. It said that good people like that old couple are rare. The vast majority, however, have a way to seek death. Then his eyes once again gleamed with golden light. Here it comes, here it comes. Another kidnapper's list. Well, I'll go ahead. With a burst of laughter, he turned around. In an instant, the expression was as terrifying as it could be. The three of them were completely speechless. What the hell? He was deliberately trying to scare them just now. But an overseer and 2 fellow weirdos. Who would be scared? Meanwhile, Special Branch responded swiftly. They declared that ghost calls aren't an urban legend, just a virus. Once infected, the phone will play music non-stop. Don't panic. Special Investigation Department Chief Inspector Hong Ping and Ching Chi are discussing Ching Chi's theory that the ghost calls are targeting kidnappers. But, Hong Ping argues, kidnappers aren't considered people by the police. His level is disaster class. As long as all ringtone downloads are banned, it can be barely controlled. He will go to Haisher to borrow transparent scissors. He can cut invisible substances, including sound. The cost is that anyone below the second tier will die. Those at tier 3 or above have a chance of surviving, and they will permanently lose some of their bodily functions. Then, he furrowed his brows tightly. The think tank's original proposal was to use the judgment horn, but it was personally interrupted. Do you remember the ghost? It was mentioned in Shuali's report. The ghost's mind deteriorated at the center of its dream. It transformed into something strange due to a lack of emotions. And the ghostly call only targets those who commit crimes. Maybe there's still room for hope. Kongping slammed the table. Wraith is indeed a promising prospect, but true anomalies are different. They are born from humans. Humans are merely the food that completes their rules. Even if an anomaly is righteous, we cannot allow its rules to be completed. Otherwise, it will be a disaster for all mankind. Then closed their eyes. The moment we became watchers, we had long since put life and death out of our minds. Isn't that right? Then walked away. But during this time, I can't use my phone. Then use a carrier pigeon. Wait for my news. Inside the ghost society, Yuan Zhenshi watched as Qian and Bai were writing in their diary again. Although every time he predicts the future, he permanently loses part of his memory. He still insists on remembering even small things like drinking water by the window in the club every day. Isn't that a bit excessive? Then a carrier pigeon flew in. He opened it and saw it was from Hong Ying. It was an invitation for Yuan Zhenshi to join a dinner gathering. That's when he remembered that Hong Ying was about to go to hell to see Xiao AI. He'd already had Xiao AI memorize the script inside and out days ago. Now, Xiao AI is a real movie queen. Then, he decisively wrote it down. He didn't have time. He had more important matters to attend to. The three little cuties at home were all short on legend points. Time to catch another wild monster to use as free labor. As for Qian and Bai's fate, coins can save a lot of effort. But he didn't expect that Qian and Bai would be embarrassed because they forgot it at home. Yuan Zhenshi narrowed his eyes slightly. Whenever there's a problem, he always keeps it close to him. And since he came today, he's been writing in his diary non-stop. He's lying. It's also possible, he is definitely not a novice. He keenly noticed that something was off with his teammate. The level of detail in his note-taking is shockingly meticulous. Even trivial things like opening a window for ventilation or drinking water are recorded. When something is unusual, there must be a reason. Could it be that you've been possessed by something strange? What if I'm wrong? With my level 4 spiritual power, I'm afraid he'd be killed instantly. 5 p.m. After club activities ended, Chio and Shiro said goodbye and headed home, secretly following behind. He trailed them all the way, until finally, Chio and Shiro entered their apartment building. Yuan Zhenshi tapped his forehead. In an instant, his soul power was fully unleashed. He scanned the entire area. Combined with Xiaoyan's abilities, nothing in the building could escape his detection. He located room 8003. Then, he rang the doorbell. Smiling, he said, "Hello, ma'am. I'm looking for Xiao Bai." The woman was also stunned. Who is this person? Wait, Xiao Bai is calling her daughter. She asked in confusion, "Who are you?" He smiled and answered, "Just arrived. I'm Xiao Bai's boyfriend." But the mother didn't believe it. Although my daughter is as beautiful as a celestial being, with the grace to shame the moon and flowers, her personality can actually make friends, and even a boyfriend. How is that possible? Just as let's eat here tonight. Yuan Zhen paused for a moment. He said his parents had passed away. Unexpectedly, his girlfriend, Qian Yubai, immediately showed a concerned expression. Yuan Zhen took Qian Yubai's hand. With deep emotion, he said, "Xiao Bai, do you know, before you came, I'm quite solitary too. It was your appearance that changed my heart. Asterisk. Since you enjoy playing the role, I'll play along with you to the end." The woman laughs and walks away to prepare dinner. Then, Qian Yubai takes off his glasses, and flicks his hair. "So, Zhenxi, let's go to the room and have some fun." Yuan Zhenxi seemed quite interested. After she herself said they were a couple, she really became his girlfriend. It's interesting, and then she tucked her hands into her pockets and went into the room. Qian Yubai slowly closed the door behind her. From the way they acted, his family is fine. The only one with a problem is him. It seems like he's pretending to cry. So where is the real Qian Bai? Or has he already died? So he deliberately took the fate coin, loudly saying, "Your coin, help me predict something." Little did he know, the one playing the girlfriend, suddenly started unbuttoning his coin. He forgot to say, "Let me use something else to compensate you." Yuan Zhenshi directly pretended not to know, saying, "No need. Then let's talk about it next time." In that instant, he felt a faint disturbance. There was something wrong with the doll on the table. He picked it up and casually swung it, but it didn't trigger the death rule. However, there's always a faint spiritual power on it. It hasn't been alive for long. Qian Yubai's father also came home from work. Yuan Zhenxi greeted him, "Hello, uncle." He channeled his spiritual power. The middle-aged man before him appeared normal. Then, without further ado, he turned around and said to Qian Yubai, "You should go back to your room. I need to talk to uncle and aunt." The father-in-law was extremely dissatisfied. This boyfriend is a bit overbearing. If our daughter marries him, won't she be completely controlled? Meanwhile, Yuan Zhen's attention was fully focused on Qian Yubai. He watched as he closed the door. Only then did he let out a slight sigh of relief. Suddenly, he turned around and pulled the two of them in the opposite direction. "I won't beat around the bush with you two. This Qian Yubai is fake. I'm 100% sure that he's not human right now." Seeing the confused expressions on their faces, he explained, "You two are familiar with Qian Yubai's fate coin, right? Then you should also know that this world has strange existences. But the little guy inside can't use the fate coins. We'll do another experiment later. I'll tell him that you're his aunt and uncle. You'll understand. Then the three of them returned to the living room. Yuan Jingxi handed over his phone number. Test complete. I'll find a way to get you all out of here. If you encounter anything strange again, call me directly. Then he walked towards the room, warning them to be careful. If your emotions are exposed, you could all die. A moment later, cut to Yubai being called out. Father quickly said, Yubai, your mom and dad, your uncle and aunt are looking for you. Mom and dad had something to do. Mom and dad were just here. Maybe they went out for something. Why don't you sit down and wait for them? The two stood frozen, trembling. Their most familiar daughter had suddenly become so strange. He really switched identities. He doesn't recognize the old couple. Yuan Jinsher had already blocked the way. It's okay, you go back to your room first. I'll go see uncle and aunt off. It was only after Qian and Bai returned to the room that he spoke to the two behind him about the delivery. The two supported each other and left the house. The woman asked shakily, is my daughter still alive? Is she? Is she? It was a question, but she couldn't stop the tears. Yuan Jinsher, having sent the two away, pushed open the door. Xian Yubai sat on the bed, brushing her hair. She asked, puzzled, you're back so soon? Yuan Jinsher raised her right hand. Yes, since you want to be human so much, I'll grant your wish. Let me let you experience human death. Then, I'll grab your neck, and twist it hard. Your neck will snap instantly, and your head will slowly droop. Dead, never to return. That didn't trigger the strange rules. Truly unexpected. But then the lowered head suddenly lifted and turned wooden. Oh no, I've been discovered. Giggles asterisk. Then the whole person began to shrink, and a miniature Luban number 7 fell out. It kept swelling up. Then it exploded again. After a cloud of smoke, a figure appeared before them. They rushed over and hugged Yuan Jinsher, crying out, President, I thought I would never see you again. At the moment of apotheosis, a pair of small hands suddenly opened the door. There's no way to run. Then Lin Lichuan opened it, a carpet-style search, but it had already vanished without a trace. He quickly called the security office, found a wild, strange doll player. The threat level is temporarily set to doom level, accessing all surveillance in the area, commencing a thorough search, confiscating all dolls and toys, destroying them. After taking care of everything, he found the couple outside. Don't worry. He won't be coming back. The ordinary coins in my pocket began to emanate spiritual energy. That is to say, Sen and Shiro in the house are real. He's back. The three of us went back together. Not far away, a couple was also saying goodbye to their child. The boy, with his backpack on, gradually walked away. Suddenly, a small hand reached out. The signature giggle was barely audible. It was playing the doll. Back at home, the elderly couple was still shaken. Yuan Jinshi took out the fate coin directly, returning it to its rightful owner. The moment Xian and Bai took it, the coin emitted a faint, clever glow. He casually asked a question, then tossed it up, then froze, successfully lost a day's worth of memory. He looked up and asked, trembling, President, what are you doing here? And where are mom and dad? Then he immediately pounced. When I was grabbed by the possessed doll, and taken away, I thought I was dead. Yuan Jinsher watched the whole time. It seems I've lost a small portion of my memory. Then, looking at the basketball in Hanamichi Sakuraji's hands, he teased, if you want to improve, you need to practice more. Here's your soul orb, Scram. You watch quietly, but notice that the news from the Public Security Bureau is on TV. The host says that ghost calls are a communication virus. Citizens are advised not to use communication devices recently. The government will take measures during this period. He closes his eyes. The special department sure knows how to fool people. So, he says goodbye to the three and heads home. Meanwhile, the special unit is under immense pressure. 3 watchers are already dead. Many friends and family of the think tank have also been killed. Kong Ping has borrowed back the transparent scissors. He picks up his phone and is about to make a call. One of the special unit's friends, a clerk with a terminal illness, is interrupted by Kong Ping. This time, he personally uses. He didn't understand and asked why. The strange justice the ghost spoke of. Who knows, you might lose your life. If not, I'll use it. Kong Ping will directly battle you and the ghost. Hong Ying is the future of the country. Then he turned and left. My spiritual power is higher than yours. My chances of survival are greater. My figure grows more and more desolate. The special division's money doesn't grow on trees. Let's save where we can. Inside the prison, a kidnapper lost control of his bowels and bladder. Kong Ping held transparent scissors in his hand. The phone on the table suddenly rang. The song, New Beginning, played repeatedly. Countless musical notes attacked. He just swung. The invisible sound was cut in two. This time, he's going to eliminate the ghost call. They were both filled with worry. There's a chance of instant death with the transparent scissors. Even if the section chief is strong, bad luck makes it all for naught. Just then, Kong Ping's eyes widened. He then let out a painful scream. His bodily functions were rapidly shutting down. Then, in front of them, his right hand suddenly exploded. It vanished. Meanwhile, Yuan Zhen's returned home, and saw shattered pieces everywhere. Xiao Sun, Xiao Yan, and Xiao Ai weren't worried at all. Xiao Ai casually said, the adults should have sensed it. Yuan Zhen's nodded. Xiao Sun isn't dead. He's been restrained. Xiao Yan even picked up Xiao Sun's crown, and put it on his own head. Without saying a word, he immediately summoned the notebook, whispering that it's fine. It will be over soon. The pages kept turning, consuming 300,000 legends to complete the ghost calling rules. After the ringtone was cut off, it could still kill. The range spread to the entire valley. After being revived, Xiao Sun immediately hugged Yuan Zhenzi. It was terrifying. Just now, he was torn to pieces. He suddenly went silent in the middle of speaking. He became mute. The notebook prompted the special science activation rule item, commemorative horn. It will all sounds within the center of the kidnapping area into it. The location is a slum. The price is that over 10,000 people in the slum will never be able to make a sound in this lifetime. Over 10,000 people lost their voices collectively, forced to blow the horn of silence, but all to stop a little girl. The incarnation of Ghost Phone, Xiao Sun, had just been revived and was ready to make a big move, but immediately fell silent, turning mute. Yuan Zhenzi's legend is lacking. I can't help you. It's the Special Division's high-security ward. The chief lies in bed, covered in bandages. He asks weakly. So the horn of silence was blown after all. Xingji nods. After Operation Transparent Scissors failed, the horn placed in the slums was activated immediately. Fake calls are completely restricted. Over 10,000 people have already signed confidentiality agreements, and they were given generous compensation. The major conglomerates forming the think tank will claim to the public that this was caused by terrorists poisoning the water supply. Kong Ping remained silent. Although no one died, it involved over 10,000 people. He doesn't dare to gamble. He wonders whether the abnormality has any justice. Now, all he can do is wait for Hong Ying's feedback after seeing the Yama girl. Then, his eyes narrow slightly. Before setting off Hong Ying's farewell party, he invites the ghost to join, and tries to find a way to send him away. He personally asks if doing this might backfire, but Kong Ping smiled. Ghost's temperament and abilities are truly exceptional. The anomalies we fear are merely stepping stones for him. If he's on humanity's side, then why shouldn't I give him a push? Then Yuan Zhenzi was called over. He never would have thought that Hong Ying's farewell party would be in the special department cafeteria. Cheapskate Hong Ying, he grumbled. What's wrong with the cafeteria? First of all, the chefs are all 5-star. And most importantly, it's cheap. Seafood for 28 cents and Wagyu beef for 1.5 yuan. You can't find that anywhere else, even with a lantern. Hong Ying burst into tears, saying, she's practically dying. Can't you guys say anything nice? Who knows if the Netherworld Maiden's substitute death ability still works after she levels up? What if I kick the bucket? What am I supposed to do then? Yuan Zhenshi, I doubt you called me here just to listen to my complaints. He directly took out a Chuling Web membership card, and said, Chuling Web is a website jointly established by the top domestic consortiums. They post Chuling missions on the site. Yuan Zhenshi caught it and asked, so why are you giving this to me? Qingji continued, saying that no matter how rich they are still just ordinary people. Once they encounter the bizarre and vengeful spirits, they will still die. Yuan Zhenshi directly interrupted, and asked again, why give me this woman? She laughed, saying, you probably don't even know that you're already famous in the circle, do you? Other monitors avoid anomalies like the plague, but you revel in them. Coughs lightly asterisk, fearless and protective. Someone like you deserves a reward, deserves much more. Yuan Zhenzi watches quietly, his expression unreadable. This woman sensed something. Aokiji paused for a moment. He continued, your obsession with killing the anomaly comes from when it was your turn to kill your friend, and then that anomaly disappeared. I wonder if you can clarify, Yuan Zhenshi. It's as usual, of course, he did it. Ever since he was eaten by the little one, I haven't seen him. It seems he's been digested and integrated by the little creature. Then I smiled faintly. I find it strange too. Maybe he got scared, and ran away. Then I accepted the membership card, and explained that I didn't have the ability to kill the monsters. They are the embodiment of rules, not something a human can kill, isn't it? Then, I slammed the table and stood up. Let me remind you, I've already passed the special department's test. Whether you believe it or not, deep down, I'm secretly pleased. If you're sleepy, I'll give you a pillow. I was just worried I couldn't find one. The weird stuff is delivered right to my door, with enough legendary points. Xiao Ai, Xiao Yan, and Xiao Sun can all release their minds. They can express dissatisfaction. They speak plainly without ill intentions. It's just a casual question. After they leave, they bid farewell. Hurry up and wake up Hong Ying. Tonight, let him meet the maiden of the underworld. Then, he returned to the think tank. Mr. Xiang should be contacting him soon. His grandson is missing. The person vanished without a trace. Afterward, the investigator looking into the case also disappeared without a return. It was 11:30 p.m. The whole family was on high alert. The ghostly love entrusted Yuan Jin to him, and he knew it like the back of his hand. Hong Ying is about to meet him with the mandatory response headset. She hesitated and asked the adult, "Would you like to check it again?" Yuan Jinshi simply waved his hand. The special guest should soon push Mr. Xiang's case to him. It looks like he'll be busy again for a while. Then suddenly, everything went blurry. She collapsed to the ground. I stopped breathing. The moment my soul separated from my body, everything in the room began to distort. Then, everything went black. I opened my eyes again, and countless people were cursing around me. Inside the strange studio, the faces in the paintings were ferocious, constantly howling. "And you will die a miserable death. Each painting is of a person. Yuan Jinxi is unmistakably among them." She reached her hand forward, as if she touched an invisible barrier. This situation doesn't seem to be caused by something strange. It feels more like a restrictive, special item. Why aren't you scared? I hate your expression. A giant face suddenly appeared in front of me. Yuan Jinxi just stared coldly, saying nothing. The man before him, he didn't know him at all. So why did he imprison me using a special item? The man seemed to have found a fun toy. Curious, he directly tore the paper open. A sharp pain shot through his foot. Yuan Jinxi let out a muffled grunt. The perverted man chuckled. "This is a punishment. Now tell me, why aren't you afraid?" Yuan Jin seemed to be covering his forehead. He said, coldly to He Qian, "That's right, I've remembered you. It's still not too late to beg for mercy." But the man just gave him the middle finger. "You've got guts." No wonder Xing Tian offered a hefty reward for your head. He then pushed up his glasses. "Your soul will be imprisoned by me." He actually dares to threaten you. He successfully pissed me off. Now I can't wait to take action. This time, give a 30% discount on the fee for Xing Tian. Yuan Zhen's gaze was cold. Whether it's He Qian or someone with the surname Tian, he doesn't know them at all. Then the paper that was imprisoning his soul slowly disappeared. "We'll see each other again soon." Artist He Qian was dumbfounded. What's going on? He killed himself. But how could he do it with his soul imprisoned? At this moment, he was extremely panicked. It seemed he had provoked someone he shouldn't have. The others whistled, cheering with joy. "And your retribution has arrived." He was almost scared to the point of a nervous breakdown. "Shut up. Everyone, shut up." Then, he slowly walked towards the door. A person cannot be revived once dead. What dies is the soul. How could they still be alive? On the other side, Yuan Jinsher opened her eyes. She had already returned to her living room. After her rebirth, the first thing she did was call the local security office. 15 minutes later, she appeared in the alley. "Ghost sir." The suspect appeared at the Black Night Bar just a minute ago. At this moment, He Qian had found her employer, Tian Zhongzi. "Tell me who this man is. And why do you want to kill him?" The man in white then took a sip of his drink and wiped his mouth. "Why is it that I have a crush on that psychiatrist? But he says he already has someone he likes." He teased, "Aren't you even afraid of a chaebol? What are you afraid of?" Little do they know, death has already stood behind them. Then, with a leap, "You two seem to be enjoying yourselves. Let me join you for a drink." The two turned around at the same time. "Who are you?" He sneered coldly. "You don't recognize me already. Weren't you two trying to kill me?" And that Tanaka, the guy in white, completely lost control of his bladder and bowels. He messed with the wrong person. Yuan Jinsher looked down at him and said, "Where did you get that photo?" The guy in white was nearly in tears. "Photo? What photo? What are you talking about?" Yuan Jinzi snapped his fingers. The phone on the ground floated up. Then he caught it with one hand. On the screen, there were various life photos of Xueli. Such things could never have been posted by him. "Now, be honest. Or should I break your limbs?" Then Xinjiang broke out in cold sweat. He secretly looked at Yuan Jinsher's photo, and then bribed her best friend. After explaining everything, the security officers showed up. He coldly said to Tian Zhongzi, "A death sentence is too merciful. Let him experience his own masterpiece." Inside the bedroom, Shirley's phone rang. "It's my ghost. I need to talk to you." He, who was originally very tired, immediately sat up. 1 minute later, he put on his clothes and walked outside. Then, he arrived at his roommate's room. The streamer, Xiao Jin, was performing a cat imitation. Xueli slowly walked closer. While walking, she asked how many women he had actually been with. She never expected his private photos to be leaked. The one behind it turned out to be his best friend. The streamer came to confront her. The other party didn't care at all. She even smiled and said she was only doing it for his own good. The other party is quite good-looking. Generous, too. Shirley smiled and patted her friend's shoulder. "I'll find you a high-paying job. Don't let him be a live streamer anymore." She hugged her tightly. "You're so good to me." Her inner thoughts were incredibly dark. He knew Shirley had extensive connections. "The job I introduced is certainly not ordinary. Then he can sell his photos to other rivals. He'll just make more money." He also showed a sweet expression. Xueli patted his head. "You have to cherish it. Weren't you always curious about what I do? You'll know tomorrow." The error tester can only do this job once in their lifetime. On the other side, Yuan Jinsher returned with the nuclear dispatch once again. Inside the fossil, the imprisoned souls finally saw a glimmer of hope. Some had been here for months, while others had been imprisoned for years. Yuan Jinshi's gaze swept across the room, and immediately landed on the pen on the table. Using a rule item usually comes at a price. Some prices even overseers can't necessarily afford. This core sender is just an ordinary person, yet he can use it without limit. Interesting. I'll find out later what the price is. It doesn't matter if he doesn't tell me. A pen twirls lightly between my fingertips. I have all the time to waste with you. The next moment, a fourth-tier spiritual pressure swept out along with Xiao Ai's summoning ritual. The soul returns. The soul is torn apart. Pain spreads throughout the body. Suddenly, he collapses to the ground. He quickly grabs hold of Yuan Jinzi. He begs for mercy. Yuan Jinzi chuckled. Who could spare the souls you brought with you? Who could spare them? But I can give you a quick end. Otherwise, you'll endure the torment of their souls. You must know that living is the greatest pain. He was wild, almost mad, crying and laughing at the same time. The price of using the pen is the random death of a friend. Yuan Zhen's expression became serious. Substitution doesn't seem to work for me. So I said, being your friend is really unfortunate. You've imprisoned so many people. I'm afraid all your friends are probably dead by now. He said to Qian, the money he earns is partly used to make friends. So-called friends don't need to have deep relationships. New friends made in bars and KTV aren't that many. Once, a public security officer came down from the second floor holding a piece of paper. The soul on it needs to talk to him. The newcomer calls himself Xiang Zhen. He's a member of Counselor Xiang's clan. He thanked Yuan Jinzi for the rescue. Huasher and Qian rushed over. You knew all along, didn't you? About the special department. Why didn't you tell me? If I had known about the existence of the ability user organization, how could he be committing crimes like a madman? Yuan Zhen glared back at him, and retreated to the corner, stammering, aren't we supposed to be allies? I even helped you kill your brother. The symbol on the painting sneered, whom the heavens would destroy. They first make mad. It's just a means of self-preservation. Make you join the ranks of the capable. Then let the special department raise suspicions. This was arranged by Yuan Jinji. The security bureau will handle it. He directly walked out. He instructed to send Xiang Zhen back to the Xiang family for a decision. As for the exile, give him a quick end. He begged, my lord, spare me. I'm still useful. Whoever you want to kill in the future, I'll do it. Someone this strong. Wouldn't it be a waste not to use him? Yuan Jinzi paused. Intrigued, he turned around and asked me, can he imprison the anomaly? He Qian was stunned on the spot. He had no idea what the anomaly was. He quickly replied, just give me a photo of the anomaly. I can draw it. Imprisoning the soul. This time, Yuan Jinsher smiled even more happily. You are of no use to me, because the aberration has no soul. Then, he pressed his palm firmly, and crushed it directly. It cannot be of use to me. Keeping it alive would only be a disaster. Back home, he immediately opened his laptop. Hong Ying's forced earpiece journey had ended. Xiao Ai recounted the events word for word, no matter what they asked. His reply was only 4 words, outside the rules. Yuan Jinzi praised him. He is worthy of being a master of deception. Truly a master of evasion, concise and to the point. Strictly speaking, it wasn't a lie. Their existence is beyond the rules. Xiao Ai's expression was serious. To be honest, after he asked the first question, his guard was greatly reduced. He was asked the second question. Now they already know that the anomaly has a consciousness. Yuan Jinsher continued flipping through the notes. It didn't matter, they had already known this answer long ago. It has only just been confirmed. The special department is probably overwhelmed right now. The only person who could take the fall, Hong Ying, will need a long time to recover. Section Chief Kong Ting is still severely injured. She's almost like a mummy. With just Qing Ji alone, they won't be able to make much of an impact. Then, they looked over at Xiao Sun, who was staring at the mirror. They sighed. He wants to restore his voice. More legendary points are still needed. Xiao Ai said, there's no need to rush, sir. Xiao Sun's ability is still usable. Xiao Sun took a piece of paper. He started to scribble on it. Then, he handed it over. He suddenly realized. The restrictions were targeting them directly. The rule is the exception. I'm afraid even the special department never imagined that there would be humans in this world who can master the rules, using network cables to transmit and gain skills. With absolute focus, perceiving things undetectable by others through hearing. In an instant, his hearing was enhanced countless times. But what are the things I can't perceive? As soon as I said that, the notebook went silent. Then, after a transformation, the doll that escaped earlier appeared. A cunning trickster. Strange, so that's how it is. The rest of the night was uneventful. But Yuan Jinzi became even more famous within the circle. The next day, Xiang Jia, to show his gratitude, gave him a mansion and over 100 top-quality pearls. He also issued a new commission. The second son of the Sima family is about to die for no reason. He had no serious illness. Not long ago, he had undergone a trivial appendectomy at a third-rate private hospital. And elderly people who have had surgery at this hospital often die in various strange ways after returning home, but many people were not seriously affected. The hospital performs an average of over 150 surgeries every day. The flow of people is enormous. These problems only appeared after the patients were discharged. Some even died months or even a year later. Yuan Zhen's went straight to the hospital. From both the records and the current situation, the hospital seemed completely normal. Other inspectors have investigated this. They didn't find any problems. But Sima Jia didn't give up. After all, it's a top hospital. Someone dying after an appendectomy. It just doesn't make sense. He stood in the hall. His new skill, absolute pitch, would come in handy. He just started the engine but froze. The elderly man behind him was walking. He suddenly fell straight down. He was sweating profusely. At that moment, he heard the sound of a soul leaving the body. Then, it disappeared. The elderly man died. There have been many such cases recently. They have all been to this hospital. Yuan Zhenzi directly took out his ID. Ghost, a special investigator from the Public Security Bureau, is responsible for investigating mysterious cases. In 3 minutes, I need to see the patient's full medical records. The attending doctor was terrified. The powerful aura made him tremble. 1 minute later, the dean, sprinting the last 100 meters, arrived at the scene drenched in sweat. Strangely enough, this lonely old man just had a physical examination yesterday. All of his indicators were normal, and he'd never been here before. In all my years as dean, I've never seen someone just walk in and pass away like that. This is a first. Yuan Zhenshi looks at the medical record. Most of the elderly people who have died recently were those who came here for surgery, but this one only had a physical checkup. Where is the problem? Then he closes his eyes. Arrange an appendectomy for me, let's try that. The kind with local anesthesia. Others can handle general anesthesia, but I have to stay awake. If I fall asleep, it'll all be for nothing. Of all the organs in the body, the appendix is vestigial. As we grow older, its immune function is taken over by other organs. Losing it won't have much of an impact. As for the other monitors, when encountering something strange, caution is needed. But the ability to constantly revive oneself makes testing the risks on oneself the fastest method. He had a strong premonition that the legend he would gain from this strange encounter would be unimaginable. His problem would soon be solved. Not long after, he was lying on the operating table. The chief surgeon was the best in the entire hospital. Absolute pitch activated. Sound is normal. Small I field of view shared. These doctors are just ordinary people. All tools are functioning normally. There are no prohibited items. Combining the two anomalies, monitoring the entire scene, any slightest anomaly, he could detect immediately. But halfway through the surgery, nothing had happened. He couldn't help but wonder if he had made a mistake in his approach. Suddenly, he began to feel increasingly drowsy, until his eyelids fully closed. He opened his eyes again. He was already lying in a hospital room. When the nurse saw he was awake, she listed the precautions. Yuan Zhenzi wasn't listening at all. It was interesting that with his 4th-tier spiritual power, it was impossible for him to fall asleep without reason. So there was only one possibility. Then I interrupted directly, and asked what other surgeries the hospital had today. The nurse was taken aback for a moment. 10 minutes later, there's a cardiac surgery. I smiled slightly. Good, I want to observe. After the nurse left, I looked towards the room, still shaken. The director instructed, any request from that person inside must be met. Who exactly is that person? Just looking at him gives me the chills. Yuan Zhenshi was already checking the notes. His lifespan is still 100 days. It hasn't decreased. Explaining that he just fell asleep. Before the investigation, he adjusted his lifespan. Every day at dawn, the notebook consumes legend points to automatically replenish his lifespan. He vaguely sensed something wrong with his body. Although he didn't die, he thought he must have been affected. He just finished an appendectomy. He got out of bed to observe someone else's heart surgery, and he even put on the surgical gown. This time, he was completely focused. Not even a fly escaped his attention. Last time, he fainted while lying down. Something must have happened. After the surgery, everything was normal until the doctors removed the heart and used a machine to replace its function. Yuan Zhenxi heard an unusual sound. It was the sound of a door opening. He looked to the side and saw a strange, large door suddenly open in the wall. It was pitch black inside. The doctors present were completely oblivious to the whole process. Yuan Zhenzi's eyes narrowed slightly. This must be the reason why I lost consciousness during my appendectomy. He pushed the door open. It was pitch black inside. Yuan Zhenz took off his gloves. Little Eye's ability attached to his right hand. Even through the mask, he could smell the strong stench of blood. Ability detection. The two large characters for heart on the door were strikingly prominent. 2 staircases appeared, one leading up and the other down. But even Lin Li, at tier 4, still couldn't see where the stairs led. He looked at the stairs, lost in thought. Up or down? Suddenly, a loud rumble came from the upper staircase. He looked up. But it was too late. It was blood. The next second, he was dead. He dissolved instantly under the torrent of blood. Remaining lifespan, 99 days. Resurrection in 1 minute. Just as he stood up, the sound of flowing blood came from the stairs again. Death was approaching again. He turned and ran, retracing his steps. After all, the door was right behind him. Just at the last moment before the blood touched him, he passed through the door. Then a flash of white light passed by. He escaped. But something even more terrifying happened. He found himself lying on an operating table. He quickly shouted, "What are you doing?" But the doctors didn't answer. A bad feeling surged in his heart. He realized his spiritual power had been restricted, unable to move. Humans are the blades blocking the path. I am the fish at their mercy, and the door he escaped through is the heart. Then, in the next moment, all the doctors turn around in strange and eerie ways. Holding scalpels, they keep getting closer. These doctors were clearly the ones who just performed surgery on someone else. Then the doctor's voice sounded, "Prepare for surgery." Yuan Jinshi's mind was jolted. They can speak, they are human. Then he watched helplessly as his chest cavity was cut open, and he died. The notebook alert sounded at the same time. Remaining life, 98 days. 1 minute later, he wakes up, wrapped in bandages. He suddenly sits up, gasping for breath. This is a hospital room. He is sweating profusely. He died twice in just a few minutes. Where is the strange danger hiding? What are the rules? Suddenly, the door opened. Who is it? Spiritual pressure surged out. It startled the nurse on duty. What a lunatic. What are you screaming for? Yuan Jinzi let out a sigh of relief. Nothing strange, just a false alarm. The nurse was furious. Who are you? How did you get in here? Then she slammed the door shut, glaring at Yuan Jinshi outside. In the hallway, Yuan Jinshi looked around. Doctors and patients in the hospital are in perfect order. Nothing unusual. The only thing I can be sure of now is that I'll see a black door during the observation surgery. Gung Gung clearly remembers his heart being removed, so he reached up with a trembling right hand. His heart is gone. A sudden headache. Alive without a heart. This is cognitive distortion. For a moment, my mind split in two. One half told me I could live. The other half told me I would die. Then the word die grew larger and larger. People die without a heart. That's common sense. Then I slowly collapsed. The pupils lose their gleam. A prompt sounds, lifespan reduced by 1. Remaining lifespan, 97 days. The law is discovered. Without a heart, one cannot live. A red light shines in the darkness. There is a hollow in the man's chest. His heart is missing. Would you like to consume 20,000 legend points for equity? My heart is full. Yuan Jin didn't hesitate at all, and nodded. Then, countless red lights converged. And finally, a heart materialized out of thin air, beating steadily. He grabbed it. If it were an ordinary substitute, no heart. Even if I can be revived, it's pointless. I'll just die when my power runs out. Then I stuff it back into my chest. The stronger the anomaly, the more it needs to be contained. Then my mind goes blank. When I wake up, I'm back in this hospital bed. Since my heart was removed during surgery, the hospital doctors haven't returned it. He must have had his perception altered by something strange during his coma. He didn't realize his heart was missing until later. But there are so many people in the hospital. They can all see that he doesn't have a heart. After all, it's such a big hole. But no one was panicking. It even seemed somewhat routine. So he stopped the nurse and asked her a question. If a person has no heart, will they die? The nurse was also confused. What's wrong with this child? Isn't this common knowledge? A person without a heart obviously won't die. He looked at Yuan Zhen's. Yuan Zhen's looked back at him. So he changed the question. Where is Dr. Lin, the surgeon who performed my heart surgery? The nurse looked even more puzzled. You don't have any record of heart surgery. As for Dr. Lin, he hasn't left his office all day. How could he have performed surgery? Yuan Zhen's expression changed slightly. He immediately smiled and apologized. He had remembered it wrong. After the nurse left the room, she also sighed. Such a young child, already suffering from dementia. What a shame. After the door was closed, Yuan Jinshi fell into deep thought. These people's perceptions weren't just altered. Even my body has been deceived. So it seems, this anomaly must be related to the heart. As for the door that suddenly appeared, it blended in with the surroundings. Heart gate, congratulations on activating the building. Anomaly activated. Human hospital death rules. Knowing I have no heart, can't stop it. Knowing I don't have a heart, the rest is irrelevant. Ha, just as I thought. Then, with a wave of my left hand, the clothes on the rack flew towards me. This so-called architectural cognitive anomaly can attach itself to a building. Only in this way can it imperceptibly alter perceptions and control everyone. So, what is its weakness? Everyone in the hospital was right. They should have lost their hearts by now. Time is running out. Otherwise, they will all die. He casually pushed open a door. He happened to see a patient collapse. The doctor shouted to organize an emergency surgery. The patient is in respiratory failure. Yuan Jinsher was stunned. It wasn't the heart. How is that possible? So she went straight outside. She called the director. I'm a ghost. I want to observe the rescue of the patient. This time, the director refused. Resuscitation is different from surgery. Resuscitation can't have any risks. Yuan Zhen's glanced at the person. He was no longer breathing. So she changed her mind and said, then arrange for him to observe other lung surgeries. Inside the operating room, Yuan Zhen's was completely focused. The patient is female, 47-year-old, pulmonary tuberculosis. Currently, his soul is in a normal state. Suddenly, the drum in his hand twitched. He looked to the side. Is it here? A familiar large door appeared there. Without a second thought, he rushed straight in. This time, the word on the door wasn't heart. It was the lungs. Then, the life and death crisis appeared. Blood came. This time, without hesitation, I chose to run downward, but I didn't expect that after running only a few steps, the stairs disappeared. Yuan Zhenzi looked back. The blood was within reach. He leapt directly forward. Spiritual power enveloped his body. Then he landed. A door appeared before him again. It was labeled liver. It was the first time he had exited from the heart. And then, there was no heart. That is to say, each door represents an organ in the human body. Whichever door you exit from, the corresponding organ will be forcibly removed. So the liver is clearly not an exit. You will die if you exit through it. There must also be kidneys in the body. Only if they're spoiled can you survive. After all, switching to an iPhone is quite common. I couldn't think of a second answer for a moment. While I was thinking, the blood flow got closer again. I ran like hell. I passed through door after door. Spleen, large intestine, small intestine, all mean certain death. Only the kidney might be a way out. I didn't run for long, already gasping for breath, using a large amount of spiritual energy to probe. Even with his strength at the 4th level, he couldn't handle it. Yuan Zhenshi hesitated, whether to continue walking toward death, to the upper levels. According to the division of the human body, the highest point must be the brain. Maybe that's the creature's weakness. Suddenly, the ground beneath him cracked open. The sound grew louder. He kept falling. That's a heartbeat. When he regained his footing, a familiar door appeared before him. It was the other side of the door. She lowered her head and found there was handwriting in the blood. Apart from herself, someone else had been here. She then put the notebook away. Even if someone was here, they must be dead by now. She then looked at the enormous creature in front of her. It was the endpoint connected to all the doors behind. That's a heart. At this moment, he was absolutely certain. This heart is the monster itself. All the missing organs from the hospital were being used to nourish it. Small I activated his ability, and was just about to strike, when the giant heart pulsed. Yuan Zhenshi collapses in pain. He struggles to suppress it with all his might. He can clearly feel his heartbeat getting out of control, and this time, he can no longer suppress it. His heart bursts out. He falls to the ground with a thud. He dies again. Only 96 days of life remain. Resurrect in 1 minute. Heart completion. But discovered that the once infallible notebook now displayed gibberish. Asked if he would choose a new path. Following the prompt, he decisively chose. The necklace on his chest pointed in one direction. Yuan Zhen's entire body erupted with spiritual power. She ran towards the exit. The notebook's hint can never be wrong, even if it's gibberish. And on the door ahead, it clearly said women's news. But the body has organs. In a moment of hesitation, the blood began to rush again. She hurriedly slammed into it. The moment I stepped out, I found myself at the hospital entrance. I sat on a bench and searched for a while. So that's what it meant. The origin of life. But why could I avoid death? Was it because that was the beginning of life? Or because I wasn't wearing the woman's hat? Then I remembered I had a notebook on me. The handwriting in the notebook was incredibly familiar. It was Qian Yu and Bai's handwriting. He had seen the heart. But too much of the notebook's content was missing. I didn't know if it was November or December. But in December 2019, a disaster occurred at this hospital. Many files were lost. The hospital does not have Qian and Bai's records. It is known that at the time, he found the way to survive. With his abilities, survival seemed impossible. But there was a lucky coin. It seems he used his precognition ability, which he has always refused to reveal. I don't know how much of his memory remains. Meanwhile, Xia Yubai received a call from Yuan Zhenshi. Soon, the two met at a cafe. Yuan Zhenshi asked directly, "Have you been to the 3rd private hospital?" Xia Yubai, sitting opposite her, didn't react at all. He was completely captivated by Yuan Zhenshi's presence. She looked incredibly handsome. What should he do? He had fallen in love. Yuan Zhenshi frowned. "Did you go to the 3rd private hospital last year?" she asked again. He finally snapped back to reality. Then he shyly lowered his head, because Yuan Zhenshi was staring at him intently. He collected his thoughts, and said he didn't know, because his diary from that time was missing. But there was something strange. His parents told him that their family was in a car accident late last year. That's what the doctor said. But none of the 3 of them remember it. Yuan Zhen's mind raced. There was a fire at the hospital around that time. Car accident victims definitely wouldn't have been sent to the 3rd hospital. That means the order of events is wrong. First, a car accident happened. The fire was most likely the result of Chiaki, and by using the lucky coin, fate created a way for their family to survive. That's why the parents will also lose their memory. So, standing up, he said, "I'll treat you to this meal. You should head home early." The two stood at the shop's door. Chiaki weakly asked, "I still can't help you this time." Yuan Jinji, as always, replied coldly, "Not for now. Wait for my message. Then look up at the sky. I will reach out if I need your help." Xian and Bai slowly walked away. No matter how much I dressed up, it didn't help. That's an iron tree. How could it bloom for itself? It's good to just stay with him like this. At least I can still flip a coin myself. Being a tool isn't so bad. Then biting my lip doesn't help. I really am pathetic, etc. "I'll take you back. You go ahead, I'll follow you." His heart raced again. Is he worried about me? Yuan Jinsher followed behind. His mood had already hit rock bottom. In the dark, a heart was connected to his. He escaped. But not completely. Is this fate? It's truly incredible. In his vision, Xian Yubai's heart is gone. Images of the two of them together flashed before my eyes. "President, you're here to shop. President, are you alright? President, I will become stronger. President, the ghost society is the safest place from zombies. President. 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 President, can I? No. You're just a burden, holding us back." That's when he realized he had ignored him. He kept making him flip coins, like a boss who constantly exploits his employees. So he shouted, "Xian and Bai." His face was bright red. He turned around. "What's wrong?" "Congratulations. Your spiritual power has reached the second level. The wind gently blows. The rest of the sentence remains hidden in my heart. I will help you get your heart back. I will follow you, until the girl gets home safely." The jade turns and leaves, but he was called back. Xian Yubai said she had something to give him. It's a talisman for good health. A safety charm. Yuan Zhenxi suddenly understood. The problem that had been troubling him was now solved. He finally understood the pattern of the human body hospital. Anyone who has undergone surgery will die, or that everyone who has their heart stolen dies. Some people survive, because they have strong constitutions. The elderly have a higher mortality rate, because their resistance is weaker. Once they get sick, their brain activates a protective mechanism, and then discovers the heart is missing. The bizarre lives cast upon people crumbled on their own. He tossed the amulet. He said, "Thank you." Then he turned and said goodbye. All the clues connected. The notebook displayed the completed third rule. The body will not be forever deceived by the human body hospital. The hidden prompt revealed, the glottis is born between existence and non-existence. My eyelids froze. It's not on the body, but on a person. It would be the glottis. So, Yuan Jinsher called the director again. He wanted to observe another surgery, preferably a lung surgery. Heart surgeries are less frequent. I've done a lot of lung surgeries, and I've already had one experience. In the operating room, a hidden door appeared. He entered immediately, and ripped off his cap. He's going to do the opposite, trying to contain it. He must first let go. Then, familiar blood flowed from top to bottom. He ran downwards without hesitation, until he found the door to the heart. He went straight through. Then, he opened his eyes, and lay still. He watched as the doctor began expertly removing the heart and lungs. But this time, he smiled. It was a containment only he could accomplish. Then, his soul left his body. He hypnotized his own body. From now on, accept the anomaly's rules. Modify cognition. There is no heart. He can still live. Until the containment of anomalies. Then at 6 a.m., the next surgery begins. He observes again. Entering the room, he starts running wildly, and continues to die and be reborn, until he finds the heart gate. He no longer has a heart. At this moment, the heart gate is the gate of life, and what's inside, is his true self. His palm lightly touches it. Without a heart, even the loudest sounds, it is unaffected at all. Without a heart, then you become my heart, to be used by me. In an instant, a terrifying sharpness erupted. It grew smaller and smaller, until it became a normal size. Yuan Zhenxi gasped for breath. It seems to have worked. Now, only the last step remains. Then I ripped open the stitches on my chest, and shoved it right in. The heart entered. Instantly, countless blood vessels spread out, connecting throughout my body. The flesh and blood in my chest rapidly grew and healed. After completing everything, Yuan Jin tilted her head. Her mental energy was severely depleted. She collapsed to the ground. The notebook displayed a prompt. Containment of human body required at the hospital. Legend points exceeded 1.8 million. Good and evil points exceeded 600,000. Lifespan restored by 100 days. Spiritual power, peak 4th stage. Spiritual power, sufficient. Proceed with advancement. This advancement will not fail. He used his last bit of strength to tap it. Meanwhile, a magnitude 4.4 earthquake shook the entire zombie-infested area. Inside the Special Science Department meeting room, the alarm echoed throughout the entire building. The epicenter of the earthquake came from Shinzen Genji. I never would have imagined. It was just supposed to be the containment of a strange entity. Yet somehow, the heart was involved with a god. After years of no activity, the god carried away the Shinzen base. The two presidents of the Foreign Research Association and the Special Department. They stared at the door. The woman's name is Nanbo. She crossed her arms and stated that the International Supernatural Agency was already aware of the matter, and would arrive at the Jiang family residence soon. She wondered about the current state of the Huang Quan girl. Kong Ping sighed. More than half a month had passed, and all was quiet. He took another drag of his cigarette. We've been on guard against the possible existence of a strange alliance reaction, but now it seems, it was just a thought. The strange alliance doesn't exist. The woman grabbed the cigarette from him, and snuffed it out immediately. You're so badly hurt. No smoking. You can't die until you find a suitable successor. You can't die yet. Kong Ping gave an awkward smile. Then he said seriously, the fact that the Huang Quan girls are sentient cannot be disclosed. The woman turned her head. She asked, puzzled, why are the monsters the enemy of all mankind? Other countries should have them too. Isn't it good to work together and brainstorm? Kong Ping said lightly, do you think it's possible that they knew all along but chose to conceal it, but chose to hide it? The woman was struck as if by lightning. Though they are all human, humans still have national borders. It's terrifying when you think about it. Kong Ping then continued, since the anomaly has its own way of thinking, is it possible that the forced answers mean the headset can't control the netherworld case? His answers could also be deliberately misleading, or he's hinting that some monsters are sentient. So conversely, could sentient beings become monsters? The woman became agitated, angrily declaring, impossible. There's a global consensus on this. If a human transforms into a monster, they lose their mind. Even if they retain some thought, they wouldn't be their former self. They can no longer be called human. Kong Ping chuckled. He didn't refute it. Now a bigger problem lay before them. The god clearly had sentience. Once it fully awakened, no one in the world could oppose it. Anomalies are categorized into misfortune, calamity, and violent levels. Violent level anomalies affect the entire country with their rules, and the gods can influence the world, far beyond the scope of tyrannical levels. This is contempt. Meanwhile, the true heart of Shinji-su wakes up after absorbing the heart. There were no discomforts after containing the heart. But what happened after he fainted? He has no idea. Then I opened the notebook. It had strange names written on it. Human Body Hospital. Heart. Wait, heart. Does that mean there are other strange organs as well? Would these strange things interact with each other, forming a whole new kind of strangeness, reigning over all the grotesqueries, becoming the sovereign? The grotesqueries keep killing. Supplemental rules. What if the other organs grow to completion before merging? Is there still hope for humanity? Then silence fell again. This containment yielded 1,835,977 points. The rules of the 5 Spring Shaosun legend, I wonder if they are enough. But once this happens, what should those who have lost their hearts do? Until a baby appeared behind him, crying for nourishment. His clear eyes were full of hope. He had made a decision. He left the hospital. I called the think tank. The anomaly has been resolved. The old man never expected the Spectre's abilities to be so outstanding. From start to finish, it took 2 days total. This doesn't even include eating and sleeping. That night, a young man was playing games in an internet cafe. Just as he was getting excited, his eyes widened. He suddenly fell back and went into a deep sleep. That night, countless people had the same dream, including Qian and Bai. They saw 3 doctors appear by their bedside. In the next moment, they were in an operating room. Then his chest was thrown aside. Warm energy surged into his heart. Their bodies gradually completing, a stream of energy flowing from the notebook to all parts of the country. Everyone was happy. Only Xiao Sun felt extremely wronged. Is it all because of his legend? Yuan Zhenzi is such a big fool. I'll draw a circle and curse you. Yuan Zhenzi is just sitting there. Don't mind him. This time, the legend says, the laptop shows it's not enough to heal Xiaoshuan. We have to use everything we have. Yuming reported to the Divine Anomaly Cave on the Divine Mountain, that while you were absorbing the heart. Yuan Zhenzi appears deep in thought. The heart of a god. Interesting. So now, which human organs have merged to form this so-called god? Meanwhile, Yuming AI says someone went to hell to find him. This time, the entity needs to go in person. The person comes from the Special Science Bureau. Then he projected the image in the room. The person inside handed over the red spider lily. The hell girl. Yamingen, I represent the Special Affairs Bureau of the world to extend an invitation to your Abnormalities Alliance. Let us unite to fight against the god that is about to awaken. The most unsolvable god of abnormalities. It is about to awaken. The god is so dangerous that even imagining it could kill you. It's nearly 100 meters tall. Yuan Zhen was desperate as he watched everything happening. Is it about to wake up? His heart should be a part of the divine. There will inevitably be a battle between them. Then he transmitted a message to Xiao AI, telling him to remain silent. We still need more time to gather legendary points for growth. Once they realize their true ability is to create monsters, the first one to be eliminated is him. Yuan Zhen must be on guard. Moreover, the initiative in fighting against the gods must be on our side. The next day, Yuan Zhen, who had been skipping class, arrived at school. People around him were whispering. I didn't expect the legendary Yuan Zhen to be so handsome. Sausage lips, no effort. Why does being handsome mean you don't have to attend class? Does being handsome mean you can do whatever you want? The girl next to her pointed and said, Yuan Zhenshire used to have a creepy club called the Ghost Society. Yuan Zhenshire glanced in their direction. The two were instantly captivated. Confirmed. Sometimes, being handsome is an irresistible charm for everyone. Do whatever you want. Yuan Zhenshire looked around. He hadn't been to school for a long time. He didn't know if the ghost club was still around. He should have had the special guest greet them. He was about to leave when someone called him. Wait. Yuan Zhenshire looked for a while but couldn't remember who it was. The girl became embarrassed. I'm the class monitor. You don't even remember anything. That's too much. Yuan Zhenzi looks completely confused. He really doesn't remember what the class monitor looks like. The girls mentioned Shui Yuanjie and wanted Yuan Zhenzi's help. Good grief, he was confused again.